Hello and welcome to episode 205 of the Daily Fantasy Edge. My name is Adam Levitan. I, of course, am one of the analysts here at DraftKings. I am the father of Jerry, the most beautiful beast in the world, and we have a very special show for you guys today. Not only are we once again coming to you from New York City, site of Saturday night's DK MLB Live Final, but we have an awesome guest for you today. The number one ranked DFS player in the world is with us right now. This is a young man who has taken the world by storm over the last couple of years, playing every GPP, playing the highest stakes, even dabbling in some cash games, which I certainly and obviously respect a ton. So no more Kandi at the top of the rankings, no more Sahel, aka Max Dowler at the top of the rankings. It is awesomo, aka Alex Baker. Alex, thanks for coming on.
Hey man, it's great to be here.
So we've done 3 of these style podcasts recently, one with Mike Petta, aka Hoop 2410. We did one with Kandia, we did one with Cal Spears, and I really enjoyed doing them. I've gotten like really good response from the listeners to them. Wanted to have Alex on because it's always fascinating to me to kind of pick the brain of people who get to the top of anything. You know, it doesn't have to be sports, doesn't have to be gambling or anything like that. It could be the number one trash man in the world, or the number one teacher in the world, or the number one computer programmer. I'm always interested in that, and I think other people are too. So anyways, we have a ton to get to. Going to take some listener questions later. We're going to talk about tomorrow's live final later, which Alex has 4 seats in, obviously the max. But I want to start with Alex's journey to get to this point. I don't want to say you're new on the scene, but it's been a somewhat recent your rise to the top. Tell me when you started playing DFS and kind of how you got into it.
Yeah, man, I've been really enjoying DFS as kind of a competitive strategy game. So I've been a gamer for a long time. I participated in like this academic games program in middle and high school where we competed in like math. And then after that, it was poker. You know, like after the Chris Moneymaker boom, I got into it. I was like, there all these people making all this money, that could be me. And then playing poker, I heard the next big thing was DFS. So I was really intrigued because I've always enjoyed sports. And I felt like my background in poker would help me kind of like the analytics. And I gave it a try. For a while, I was kind of trying to do both at once. And I was like, I see more potential in fantasy sports. So I just made a switch and I started doing that full time.
Have you ever had what people would call a traditional job?
Yes. Right out of college, I kind of decided that going like the corporate route wasn't really my style. I wanted to do something more unique. What I did was I was working for an environmental nonprofit. I went door to door and I was fundraising.
God.
So it was like it was a job where it was all about, it was kind of like a sales job where we had to get people to give donations and we had quotas and stuff like that. So it was like a really fun kind of thing. Obviously not like a very profitable venture, but I learned so much. That's like the hardest job I've ever had. That was way harder than fantasy.
That sounds like my worst nightmare. I'm afraid that I'm gonna knock on somebody's door and they're gonna like murder me or something, you know?
Yeah, that actually happened to me.
Like when people come door to door at my house, I have 2 young kids and I have a dog, and it just sets me off. And I know that people are just doing their job. It sets me off because the dog starts barking, gets the kids all riled up. You know, I'm sure you get some angry people when you're going door to door. All right. How about this? What games did you start out playing in DFS? What kind of role did you have? Did you start playing small stakes, or what were you playing when you first started?
So to get my feet wet, it was the middle of the summer, so I was really focusing on MLB, a lot of head-to-head action, some GPPs. But as I started playing more and more, I was having success, but I realized that the tournaments was where the most interest was, the most opportunities. So I really started focusing on those. I kind of started the smallest stakes they offered. Back then, you could enter the $3 and $4 tournaments 150 times. So I'd do that. And I just kind of gradually built it up over time.
Was there like a big moment when you said you started playing seriously in 2015, is that right?
Right.
Was there a big moment where it was like, oh man, I made a big score, now I'm going to start really getting aggressive and moving up stakes, or was it more gradual?
It was pretty gradual. I didn't have any huge scores. Like the biggest one I had that summer may have been like $5,000. The main thing was to play poker. I was like commuting to Canada. I was living in Michigan, going to Windsor. So it was like a huge logistical hassle. So DFS I could play in the comfort of my home. So I'm
Right.
like, this is awesome, and I see like more potential, so it was a no-brainer.
Were you talking to other people? Did you have friends playing DFS, or do you kind of just dive in on your own and try to learn on your own?
I pretty much dived in on my own. There are some sites offering really good content, like Roto Grinders. I actually entered their optimized lineup my first day, and I like got second in the Daily Dollar at DraftKings. So I was like, maybe there's something to this. But then I started looking at like all the advice online, and then I kind of came up with my own model because I felt like that was the way to get an edge, and I kind of just built it up over time so that I could compete.
Did you have a math or statistical background? You said you were able to create your own model. How could you do that without some type of like programming background or something like that?
Yeah, so I did a math major in college with a statistics focus,
Okay.
but those skills really weren't as important as you might think because you need like a basic understanding, but really it's all about like kind of fitting your model to different variables, like figuring out what the most important variables are. To do that, you kind of have to know the sport and the statistics. Like in baseball, you might look at pitchers. Like some guys like talk about ERA, but that's like a bad stat. So you got to figure out the better ones. Like WHIP is a really good one for pitchers. So it's kind of like figuring that out, and then like coming up with regressions to like fit the data to your model.
Were you a big sports fan, or you said obviously you've gotten into now the statistics side? Were you a big sports fan growing up?
I wasn't in growing up, but I got really into it. I'm from Ann Arbor, Michigan, so in 2004, the 2005 season, the Pistons were like killing it. I was like, this is pretty cool. They don't have like the superstars. So I was getting really into that. So I got really into Pistons over the next few years, and right now NBA is kind of my favorite because that's the sport I've really paid the most attention to.
Speaking of NBA. I've seen you in the cash game streets in the NBA, posting head-to-heads and stuff like that. Is it hard to manage a cash game team while also, obviously you're playing 150 lineups also every night. Is it hard to manage playing that much volume and concentrating on a cash team? Have you ever thought about, hey, I should just concentrate on cash, or I should just concentrate on GPPs? Because we've had high-stakes guys on here like Hoop and obviously Peter, who's on this podcast almost exclusively plays 1 or 2 lineups every night. Have you thought about not focusing on cash as much, or not focusing on GPP as much?
So my focus has always been primarily GPP. The cash is kind of a secondary thing for me. I really enjoy like the head-to-heads, kind of taking someone on. So to come up with my lineup, I just kind of use like an optimized lineup from like one of the sites I really like is Fantasy Cruncher to build my lineups. So that kind of takes a lot of the work out of it, and it leaves me free to kind of focus on my GPP lineups.
Was there a point you were like, oh man, I see Sahel, I see Kandia up there, I want to be on top of the leaderboard like those guys? Like, was that a conscious goal, or do you just like run up the rolls so big that like, well, I have to play every contest? Or was it like, I'm gonna play every contest and I'm gonna beat everybody?
Yeah, that's a great question. So like, when I was getting into it, Sahil Sud had just like taken #1 from Kanye. I think Kanye was really funny. He posted this this tweet of his car being possessed or something. But yeah, Sahil didn't just like get #1. He was like dominating by, like so much. I'm like, well, I don't want to just like play DFS. I want to be one of the best, and that was how people were ranking. Is kind of based on the volume. So I'm like, I'm gonna do that, and to do that, I need to like play as many contests as I can, play as many sports as I can. So that was really my goal, because at the end of the day, it's kind of cool to like have some sort of metric to judge how well you're doing versus how much money is in your account or something.
I have seen you in all kinds of different sports. I think we played some in WNBA. I think we've played some in NBA. We've definitely played some in NFL. I know you're playing baseball. How can you manage all those sports, and do you like playing the niche sports?
Yeah, I love all the sports. My favorite right now is WNBA. Actually, like playing it so much, I got season tickets this year to the Chicago Sky.
A young team with a lot of talent. I like that.
Yeah, that's really cool because it's like such a growing thing. They let you like meet all the players and stuff. So that's like really kind of just for fun and for the love of the game. I actually end up missing out a lot on WNBA because there will be all the slate news like there's an NBA, and my lineups won't be up to date, and Yeah, because I'm focusing so much on other sports that are lacking at the same time.
Yeah. So let's talk about projections for a second. How can you manage, and it's hard enough for me to just manage following NFL news alone or like NBA news alone. How can you manage the news and everything that goes into your model for all these sports at the same time?
Yeah, so it's all about kind of streamlining the information. The best source is usually Twitter, so I have like a lot of the most important accounts, I'll have them pushed straight to my phone. I'll just have my phone kind of reading the ticker as it goes by, like to see all the latest information. So that's how I kind of like keep the most up to date.
In terms of projections, how much of it is automated? How much are you going in there and tweaking the variables, as you said, and are you always tweaking the model, or do you think it's set pretty well now to the point where you like it?
I usually tweak my model when I've been losing a bunch. So if I'm doing pretty well, you know, I'm fine. If I'm losing, I'm like, maybe I need to look into this. This isn't quite right. What was the rest of the question?
Like, how much of it is automated and how much of it do you do yourself?
So a lot of it is automated because the data side, you can kind of automate that pretty well. But a lot of it is also following the team so that you know the dynamics. Because, like, say in NFL, they only play 16 games a year. So you don't have as much data. You got to know more about the culture of the team, what the coach thinks of the players, who's going to get more playing time this week based on like what the coaches are saying and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a lot of the algorithms might be automated, but like some of the inputs like minutes or like what percentage of the carries is someone going to get this week, that's all kind of like I fiddle with them manually.
Is there like a team behind Awesomo? I know a lot of guys who have played really high volume and really high stakes. They have like a team working on news. They're not playing DFS also, but they're just helping you with news, helping you with projections and stuff like that. Is there a team behind Awesomo?
Well, that's really funny. I've always wanted to outsource all the stuff to like some foreign country, but right now it's actually just me. Like,
wow.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, that's kind of in WNBA. I feel like I'm kind of at a disadvantage because it's just me and I don't have anyone kind of updating all the stuff.
Right.
So yeah.
Have you thought about hiring people? I'm sure there's plenty of our listeners out there would love to work for you.
Yeah. Do you know anyone who'd be interested?
Ask them. Ask the people to tell you. If you give your email address, I'm sure people will be like, "I'll update the WNBA projected minutes for you tonight." They for sure would.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, I think you should. All right. What format would you consider your best right now? You said you focus mostly on GPP. Would you say the mass multi-entry style is the best for you now? Or what would be your favorite style of game or your best style of game right now?
So I really enjoy the mass entry, but my favorite ones are like the high stakes, like Thunderdomes and stuff, because so many of the days like you're playing against the same guys, like Chipotle Addict, Papa Gates, Yoda Cow, Shanzan. So it's like you kind of get to know their strategies a little bit, and it becomes a little bit more of a game of poker where it's like, well, these guys are going to do this week. I know Sahil Sud, like he always stacked the Rockies at home. So it's like if I'm building a Thunderdome lineup and he's playing, I'm going to be like, well, maybe I don't want to have the Rockies because that base is already covered, you know?
Yeah.
So that's a really interesting dynamic.
Do you want to do some power rankings for like the Thunderdome? Who do you think maybe would be the best, I don't know, 2, 3, 5, whatever you want to say, like who you think is the best right now at those high stakes kind of Thunderdome style tournaments?
Yeah, it really depends on the sport.
Let's do NFL.
Okay, NFL, I think no one's going to argue that the Crowley brothers, Papa Gates and Chipotle Addict, you know, those guys have had an unbelievable run. And I also saw this dude, Spud Crowley, on the site. So I don't know if he's related, but if he is, you better watch out. But also, I mean, in other sports like NHL, there's this guy, Testosterone. I don't know anything about him except that he's always on the top of the leaderboards. And I think a rising star is Jay Kari, who goes by Tommy Nation.
Yeah.
NBA, I really look out for that stunner. And Yoda Cow, I know. I've met Yoda a few times, and he tells me he watches like all the games. Like he has this whole monitor set up, and I'm kind of nervous that maybe he's catching stuff I'm not. And then in MLB, the guy everyone's talking about this year is Sean Zahn.
Yeah.
He's just like flipped the switch this year and like been on the top a ton of times. Everyone's trying to figure out how he does it.
You mentioned watching the games. Do you ever watch games?
I only watch games, you know, like for fun with friends or something like that. Don't do too much research like that. I should probably do it more, especially in a sport like NFL, where you like see things in the game that you might not see in like the box score or something like that.
Yeah. I was gonna say, do you think you're missing, or you know, for people out there, do you think they're missing something by? I actually think. I don't know. I think sometimes people confuse themselves by watching the games. You know, they see somebody make a huge play, and then they think that it's repeatable, and this guy's awesome. You know, and it happens to me too. Like, remember when, I don't know if you remember when Amir Abdullah had this like ridiculous preseason run, and I thought, like, your immediate reaction, you can't help it, is like Amir Abdullah is the best player in the world. So I actually think maybe it hurts people to watch the games. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think there might be something to that. There's kind of a concept of information overload, where if you have too many different factors working, it can be confusing. The thing is, like, watching a game, I'm not like a scout, so like what I'm taking away from that isn't going to be that much different than what's on the box score. You know, if someone has a good game, they're like putting up big fantasy numbers. It doesn't matter if you watch the game or if you watch the box score. But if like they're having a really good game, but somehow the fantasy numbers don't work in their favor or something like that, that would be where like watching the game and having a really keen insight what like makes a good player, that would be really helpful.
What about stress while watching the game? I'm sure you do have six figures out there all the time. Does it help you to watch the games, or do you like tilt off if you watch the games, or what's up with that?
Yeah, I think it's always kind of addictive to check my DraftKings app on my phone and like see how much I'm up or losing throughout the night. But I ultimately think that it's not like a positive thing. So if possible, I'll try to have something going on that night so I don't have to worry about it until like the next day, you know?
Do the swings get to you at all? I mean, you said you started off playing pretty small, and then now you're obviously playing really big. Do the swings get to you on like an emotional level at all?
Yeah, definitely, because doing fantasy sports professionally, especially like GPPs, there are going to be like periods of several months where you're not like winning any money, and that can be really frustrating. So one of the key things that's important is kind of not getting too low when you're losing and not getting too high when you're winning, because I know the flip side is people like have a big score and then they'll think they're like the DFS god, and that can also have some destructive consequences.
People, I think, maybe to a fault, are like obsessed with ownership and trying to leverage projected ownership. I think it's super important for GPP, but I'm not necessarily convinced that it's the most important thing for GPPs. Where do you come in on that, and do you do your own ownership projections, and how important do you think it is to use those when you're making lineups?
Yeah, I absolutely think ownership is important. So the thing about the DFS landscape right now, I think there are a lot of people that have great projections, and there are also sites that offer really good projections. So just knowing who the best picks are isn't enough for a GPP. But then again, like if you just go off ownership, you're gonna end up on teams with people that aren't that good. So like it's really important to reconcile these two things, but it's like such a complex like mathematical problem that I don't think anyone's even come close to like solving it yet. So everyone's kind of using their intuition to kind of figure out what the best strategy is, but no one really knows.
How do you go about trying to project ownership?
Well, we do offer ownership projections on my site. I spend a couple hours a day, but you gotta follow the like trends in the industry, like who are different sites recommending, because ultimately that's like the best indicator of who people are gonna roster on that day.
Okay, I'm sure you hear people complaining all the time, and I think almost exclusively from people who don't get it, but there's like, awesomo only wins because he plays 150 lineups in everything. Does that get to you at all when people complain like that? And do you ever, well, why don't you answer that first, then I have a follow-up.
So it's a really funny question, because anyone could put 150 lineups in. It probably makes it harder to win because you can't put your best lineup each time. You got to put in 150 different lineups. So, But ultimately, I mean, I don't think it matters too much. I just judge like each individual entry, is that going to be profitable or not, you know?
Right. Do you consider, because I talked to Condi about this a little bit on the podcast, do you ever consider like the implications on the ecosystem when you're registering, you know, like is it worth, you know, maxing out the $5 GPP or whatever, or the $8 because you're so likely to have such a huge edge on people who might be just starting playing? Do you ever consider like the ecosystem when you're registering?
Absolutely. So I think the sites, including DraftKings, have done a good job kind of fixing the rules so that the lowest stakes contests are protected, and some of the other ones. But like when it comes to the $3 and $5 like big contests, like those are usually like the biggest contests on night. So like those are the ones I want to play the most. I want to be like 100,000 people, not like 10,000. But overall, I think people like often get this wrong because people push the ecosystem like to such an extent that the sites will adapt and kind of eliminate that for possibilities. So like one of the reasons that DraftKings made under $5 exclusive to like more beginning players is so many people were like mass entering that, but it ended up affecting some of the guys who were like on that fringe between like being a really good player and being at the top. So it affected those guys the most, and the guys who were kind of like mass entering like didn't feel the effects as much, you know?
What do you think about the ecosystem at kind of the higher stakes? Do you think the games are getting tougher, significantly tougher? I think for sure people are getting better, but how much better, I guess, is the question, since maybe you started playing seriously?
Yeah, absolutely. The high stakes are very tough. It really depends on the rake. So like you got to look at the field and the site fee and kind of determine, do I have enough of an edge over this field to be able to like come out on top, you know?
Right. Yeah. It's like it's almost. Was one of the reasons you got out of poker, you think, because the games kind of got so tough to the point where you thought the edge wasn't there as much anymore?
Yeah. Poker Stars was the site I played on, and there were some really bad signs when they got like bought by another company. Fortunately, with DFS, we're still in a stage where these companies aren't really focused on making a quick buck. They're thinking long term, like especially with the recent Supreme Court decision about sports betting. So I'm not as worried about the site fees like getting so high that like you couldn't make money.
Yeah. All right, let's give the people some advice here. They want to learn. What do you think the biggest mistakes a lot of these I don't want to say new players, but like, you know, guys that are trying to grind, they're trying hard, but they're not winning. What do you think the mistakes that they're making in GPPs are, standard GPP players?
So I think the most important mistake people make is bad contest selection. So you really want to max out the easiest contest before you like move on to the next one. The easiest contests right now are the ones where pros are excluded. So it'll be like your quarter arcade or your $1 to $5 GPP on DraftKings. So you really, if you're a beginning player, you want to play those. You're gonna have the best shot to win. And then I think a lot of guys, they'll make fewer lineups and enter them in higher stakes as they're trying to like play more. But you just want to make more lineups and max out the lower stakes before kind of progressing.
That's interesting. What if you only feel comfortable making a few lineups, like you're not comfortable making 150 lineups, juggling exposures and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a skill that if you want to be a serious DFS player, you're going to have to master.
Yeah.
It's a lot less stressful, in my opinion, to enter 150 times in the mini max than to enter like twice in the monster, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. I never really thought about it like that. Maybe I should think about that. All right. Anyway, speaking of helping people, you have somewhat recently, I believe, launched your own site, awesomo.com. I guess one thing that people would immediately ask is why, right? If you are making all this money playing DFS, why give away anything? Or you said you're giving away ownership projections, and I assume you would have other stuff on there like projections and optimizer and stuff like that. Why give that away?
So, I mean, why does any guy do anything? You know what I mean? So, like, I was doing really well in DFS, and I felt like I kind of maxed out where I was by reaching number one. So I'm like, what else can I do, you know? And also, like, being a DFS player is kind of hard, like, communicating what you do. So I'm like, if I start a business, like, that'll be so much easier. I can just say, Like I run a sports media company instead of spending like 30 minutes trying to explain to someone what DFS was.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna ask that. What does your family think about your like chosen profession?
Yeah, I wasn't even as worried about what my family thinks, but what the ladies think, because I was like trying to get on the dating scene. And I found it much easier to say like I run a company.
I see.
But to go back to the original question, I like meet all these people at these live finals, and they're always coming up to me, and they're like, "Well, I want to do what you do, but I'm working 50 hours a week.
Right.
I don't have time to spend hours a day researching. So I want to like put a resource out there where it would streamline all the information, so people can make DFS a sustainable hobby by having a trusted source to give people the information they need to build a roster that's competitive. But yeah, I did it all for the nookie.
No.
To quote one of the great poets of our time.
No, I know what you mean. Believe me, me trying to explain what I do is just a stone disaster. I talked about that with Mike Petta. It's just like my biggest fear is that like it's gonna be career day for my kids, and they're gonna be like, "Oh, Daddy," and I'm just gonna be like, "God, I can't even handle it." So I think I do agree that business owner sounds much more professional. You could just say you're in predictive analytics. That's one way to do it. All right, let's talk about the future a little bit. First, I want to say, obviously, you know the stories of Sahil and Kandya. Both were on top at different times, just as you are. Both were unable or maybe unwilling to stay there. Have you talked to them at all? I assume you're aware of their stories, and are you afraid at all that you would get similarly burnt out or bite off more than you can chew, et cetera?
Yeah, I don't know those guys personally, but I would really like to get a chance to get to know them. But as far as burnout, I've been kind of going strong, and I know that there doesn't seem to be a good track record of guys who make it to #1. So maybe I should be a little bit more nervous than I am.
Yeah, it seems like you have a relaxed attitude about it. All right, sports betting legal. Is there interest there from you? Do you think you could turn your models towards sports betting effectively, or are you going to stick with DFS?
Yeah, I definitely have an interest in sports betting because it's a really interesting problem to kind of figure out should the money line in a game be, or what should the over/under be. But I really see DFS as the evolution of sports betting, where it's like the sports betting taken to like a really interesting, like made into an interesting strategy game.
Yeah.
And that's like what really appeals to me. Yeah. But if everyone else is doing sports betting, maybe I'll give it a try.
No, I totally agree. I like DFS so much better. It's just so much deeper, you know, like there's so much more information and it's so much more inefficient, whereas the sports betting stuff I think is, on its surface at least, way simpler. All right, we've dabbled enough here. Now it's time for everybody's favorite portion of the program, the listener questions. We have a 7-pack of listener questions today. Question 1 comes from Tyler Marion. It's a good question. He says, how much time do you dedicate to research? Sounds like a lot.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, it depends on the sport. Some sports like MLB are easy because they tell you the lineup, and you know exactly how much people are going to play, and then you can just download the stats. So that's pretty streamlined. But when it comes to a sport like NBA or NFL, you really need to keep track of the rotations, keep track of how many minutes everyone has played, etc. That takes a lot more time because a lot of days you're going through 10 to 15 games.
Right.
For NFL, it'll take me like a couple nights till I get all my predictions for the week. So.
Right. Yeah, I'm saying when NFL and NBA are overlapping, is that your busiest time, you would say?
Yeah, definitely, especially because NHL is also during that time.
Okay.
So you guys probably won't be seeing me a lot in November or whatever.
It's funny you mentioned NHL. We do have a question here. Question 2 comes from Saul Goodman, DFS. He says, please ask Awesomo why he refuses to play me in NHL head-to-heads.
So I'm glad that Saul Goodman, DFS, posted that question. I've actually talked to him a little bit on the 2+2 poker forum, so we kind of had some back and forth. He enjoys being kind of a troll online, I believe. I've never met him. I'm sure like he has a totally different personality in person, but so I definitely played him in a lot of head-to-heads. He's like very good at NHL. But I think the thing is he doesn't understand that like it should be like a good user experience. So I'll post like a bunch of games and he'll join every single one.
Right.
You know, it's like that just makes me feel like I'm not that good or something. Like if you just played me once a day, you know, maybe I would.
Right.
But it actually got pretty heated because we put all these fantasy duels. I felt so offended that he was taking some of my games. I challenged him to a real duel.
Do you block people? I mean, like, because here's the thing: when you're playing every sport and you're playing GPP, there's some people, you know, and like myself, I would concentrate exclusively on head-to-heads in NBA or, you know, head-to-heads in NFL or whatever, and then you're doing all this other stuff and you're coming in and you have to play all these specialists, right? So I assume Saul is some NHL specialist or something like that. So do you block people? Is there a concern that you're going and playing all these specialists and stuff like that?
Yeah, definitely the specialists are a concern. Another concern is just like you want to like make the most of your head-to-heads. So if really good players are joining them, then that's someone else that isn't as good that could be joining. So I think it's really important. Like I really like the DraftKings feature where you can limit how many people or who can join them and how many times.
Yeah.
Because I think that that's like the ultimate contest selection because you know exactly who you're playing.
Right.
And you can really control that so that you can focus primarily on playing people that aren't as good as you.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Question 3 comes from Eric Most. He says, how much of your MME strategy is algorithmic versus handmade? I know we touched on that earlier, but I think he's specifically asking about sometimes when I make 150 lineups, which isn't that often, but sometimes when I do it, I don't just get my projections in there and then let it run. I'm like, well, actually, I want 40% of this person, or, you know, the optimizer spat out 60% of X, but I really only want 10%, so let me mess around with it. Do you go in and mess around with your exposures, or you just put the projections in there, let it run, and put them in?
Yeah, definitely. I think like setting your exposures is important. I think you can do that with an algorithm. So like in NBA, for example, a guy who's a really good value, but they might only be projected for 20 points. Like I'll limit that more than like a Russell Westbrook or something like that.
Right.
But I do have a system for ranking my 150 lineups, so I can kind of figure out which ones are my strongest ones that I want to enter in like a single entry or something like that.
You mean not a ranking based on straight projected points, a different kind of ranking?
Yeah, I mean, well, the projections are important, but the optimizer already like gives you the highest projections.
Right.
So you want to reconcile that with like ownership and kind of figuring out how contrarian you want to be or how much chalk you want.
I see. Question 4 comes from Vina Penny. He says, how much skin to skin is going on at DK Live Finals? If you listen to the podcast, you're familiar with skin to fur. That's when you take your shirt off and grab your dog and press him or her against you. What about, he wants to know about skin to skin at DK Live Finals.
I'm actually kind of interested in skin to fur at DK Finals. Like, what would that entail?
Do you have a dog?
I don't.
Oh,
but
man, you're crazy.
I'm intrigued by this concept, but I know some people are into like trading pieces of action.
Yeah.
I've done it in the past, but I think the most I've done is like 5% or something. There's some sites that you can post your action online.
Sure.
People can participate.
Sure.
But I did meet one guy that had 10% of another guy's live final. And he ended up winning like $5 million. So the 10% guy had 500K. That doesn't sound too bad to me.
That's amazing. You have 4 entries in the live final on Saturday night, correct?
Yeah.
And you have all of yourself in those, right? So you could get 500K, 350, 250, just stack it up.
Yeah, I'm actually just going to put the same lineup in all 4 because...
Run a train.
Yeah, I know what the winning lineup's going to be, so I might as well get the top 4 spots, right?
All right. Question 5 comes from Jake Anderson. He says, can you give us a bit of detail on how to best create 150 lineups for MME? How spread out is your ownership for NBA versus sport like NFL? And that's definitely a question that I get a lot from people. They want to know how big their player pool should be. They want to know how many guys they should have on different teams and stuff like that. So give us a little bit of detail about strategy for 150 lineups in different sports.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think the amount you want to have a certain guy should have some correlation to like their % chance of having a good night. So if I think there's a chance like a pitcher will like have a 1 out of 3 chance of being the top pitcher of the night, then I'll be like pretty heavy on them. But if it's like a really good value, but they only have 5% chance of being the top pitcher of the night, maybe I'll pull back because I think they're going to be overowned because everyone's optimizing for projected points.
Question 6 comes from Tom Vecchio. He says, at the nosebleed stakes, are you sweating the games as much as an average player would, or you just move on to the next slate's research? And we touched on this a little bit, but what do you think about that? Are there certain times you sweat more than others?
Yeah, I think those high stakes Thunderdomes are like the most fun to sweat. Like not as much how your lineup is doing, but just seeing like what is everyone else doing. Mm-hmm. So that's like the interesting part of sweating to me, is like seeing what everybody else is on that night. As far as what happens in the night, like that's not that interesting to me because there's so much like randomness involved.
Are you playing the same amount roughly every night, or like if you feel good about a slate, are you playing more? Feel bad about a slate, playing less?
I'll try to keep it pretty steady every night. I'll just play every GPP, like, right. So I guess it depends, like, how appealing the slate is for how big the GPPs are, so.
Right. You got to watch, and I mean, you got to sweat NFL at least. Everybody sweats NFL. You don't watch the NFL games either?
Actually, with NFL, I'll watch the games. I like Red Zone, and also I like watching my Lions play, so.
Oh, God. What do you think about the Lions this year? You sound like a real fan.
Well, I'm intrigued because they have Matt Patricia as the new coach. Yeah. I think their weakness has been they can't find a guy to rush 1,000 yards in the season. So hopefully this year they can actually get a run game going on.
Kerryon Johnson, who we're actually he's in play tonight for preseason. I'm like, I know you're not playing the preseason slate tonight, but Kerryon Johnson is in play tonight in preseason. So maybe we can get you to play some preseason.
Yeah, I might have to play tonight just because I have this insider tip here.
Yeah, like, Kerryon Johnson, big insider tip. We'll get to that in a minute here, though. All right, last question we are going to do comes from Heroes of War 2. Interesting question. He says, what would you do if you didn't do DFS as a career?
So I've thought a lot about that because I don't think DFS will exist indefinitely. Mm-hmm. So what I would really like to do is start a nonprofit. Mm-hmm. I think there's so many like issues, but one issue that I have personal experience with is competitive gaming. Mm-hmm. So I feel like I owe a lot of my success to this academic games program that I participated in when I was young. I've given kids confidence in math, English, language arts, social studies, and like putting in a competitive atmosphere like made it much more like engaging than like a normal school. Mm-hmm. So if I started a new career, I'd like to kind of like come up with my own nonprofit that kind of gave kids the opportunity to engage with these topics in like a new way.
That'd be cool. So not knock door to door.
Well, I might have to do that to raise the money.
You can hire people to. I'm worried about you. You gotta hire people to go door to door. All right. This was awesome, Alex. Thanks so much for coming on. Stick around. We're going to talk some NFL preseason. We're going to talk MLB Live Final. Get a little bit about your thoughts about your strategy there for Saturday night. But for now, here is Pierce Dietrich with his picks for the Consumers Energy 400 at the Michigan International Speedway.
Welcome to Price Check. I'm Pierce Dietrich. Let's look at the salaries for Michigan, whose salary jumped up this week. Bubba Wallace, $5,000 up to $6,400. Michigan is all about the late race restart, and Bubba nailed it in the first race. He finished 19th, 5 spots better than his average position. Eric Jones, $6,700 up to $8,000. The JGR cars got busted cheating right before Michigan. Had to start in the back, but he still finished 15th. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., $5,700 up to $6,700. Did he wreck last week? Yeah, he wrecked multiple times last week. That puts the official count at, I don't know, I've lost track. It's somewhere north of 20, almost 30 wrecks this season. Whose salary dropped this week? AJ Allmendinger, $8,300 down to $6,300. He gets the road course hangover price drop, but he did score the 11th most fantasy points in the first Michigan race. Kurt Busch, $9,300 down to $8,400. He led 46 laps in the first Michigan race, but it's been 57 races since his last victory. Casey Kane, $7,300 down to $6,500. He's got one top 10 this year, and that was at Daytona. His average finish this season, 23rd. That's not good for Casey Kane. Favorite play of the week, Kyle Larson, $10,600. He might not lead a bunch of laps, but he has a knack for leading the last lap at Michigan. Eric Almirola, $8,200. The Stewart-Haas cars are the best, and $8,200 is just too cheap. I don't care where he starts. All right, guys, check out the DK Playbook for your DFS information and needs. If you have NASCAR questions, hit me up on Twitter at RaceForThePrize. I'm Pierce Dietrich. Catch me on DK Live.
All right, we are back, and me and Alex are now joined by Gareth Thorne, joined by Pat Mayo. What's going on, boys?
It's hot out, so I thought I'd look like sharp for this, although people have been telling me that I don't look sharp, and now I'm like sweating through my suit.
So wait, it's hot out, so you added layers. That was your...
That was my thought process, but these guys got it going on. I got to get their haircut, and I'll be good.
Yeah, you don't want this haircut, believe me. We are going to talk NFL preseason. We're going to talk MLB live final. I want to tell the people, Pat Mayo is going to be extremely distracted. We have the golf on in front of us because the cut line is approaching.
They get -1 in play, +1 in play, looking like it's even for the moment. But Russell Whalen will be in studio at 5:40, and we're going to do half an hour live cut sweat to get everything jammed in. And my teams are horrible, so.
Who is that +1 that you're sweating the cut?
There's a bunch of guys in, like Sergio's at +1 right now. Kuchar's at +1. Luke List had a 3-putt on 17, because that's what he does. Yep. But he's at +1. Kyle Stanley missed a 3-foot putt.
Did Finau get up to +1?
Finau was at +1. I haven't checked the leaderboard recently, but he was there. Then he made a triple bogey.
Having a great DFS day.
So they haven't showed a shot of him on the coverage yet because, golf coverage.
Okay.
Enough golf for you.
Enough. Let's talk about a real sport. Bad news today. Darius Geist ended up tearing his ACL, which was shocking. Darius Geist walked off under his own power after he got hurt last night. There was video of him in the locker room being like, hey, I'm fine. Don't worry about it, guys. Today comes out. Tore his ACL. And I think it's usually like a running back injury is not that big a deal in the NFL, but the gap from Darius Geist, or at least what I thought he would do compared to Fat Rob Kelly, compared to Samaje Perine, I think is pretty wide. So, Garion, how do you think this affects the Redskins' outlook going forward?
I mean, their season-long outlook, it obviously hurts. I think from a fantasy perspective, you're right. There is this massive gap between those three entities. And we were kind of talking about this earlier. I'm still not 100% convinced. I'm not sure if they're enlightened enough to do this, but I would be watching what the Redskins do between week 3 and week 4 and the start of the regular season, because there's going to be a lot of running backs who are cut from their teams. And I think that's probably a more viable route to take than to bring back one of these retreads. I mean, I know Perine's not this grizzled veteran at this point. He's only in his second season, but I don't know. I feel like we got a sense of last season what his ceiling really was. Now, maybe that's enough for the Redskins. Maybe they think there's more down there. So I guess I would say he's probably the first guy they turn to, but it's not overly inspiring.
Yeah, it's not. I don't want to see DeMarco Murray. I don't really want to see Alfred Morris. No. I would agree with you. I would like to see one of these young guys that gets cut, because they're just everywhere. And a lot of people already tweeted me. They're like, just give Chris Thompson the ball 20 times.
Not happening.
Right, and people don't understand.
They tried that last year. Didn't work so great.
Yeah, it didn't work out.
One of the most.
Still not 100%.
IR.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. All right.
But like the Niners have a lot of backs.
But Brady just got banged up. They don't know how long he's going to be out. So
even the Rams, they didn't need to draft John Kelly this year. So there are teams that like right now there are
what's
a couple
end
teams
up
sweating the 53.
Capri Bibbs is still like on their depth chart, and he finds a way to start a game every single season. So it doesn't matter who they put in there. Everyone's just going to get hurt, and Bibbs will end up being the starter from like week 10.
Is anyone playing the 2-game preseason slate tonight? Awesomo plays every sport. He claims he's not playing preseason tonight. Are you really not playing the slate tonight?
Well, I'm intrigued by your recommendation of Kerryon Johnson, so maybe I'll have to make a lineup.
You can make an all-Lions lineup. Connor Cook, Kerryon. Who else could you play? Jace Billingsley, maybe. Are either of you guys playing the preseason slate?
No. Well, what's the move on like a 2-game preseason slate? Do you stack one team or one game?
No. Same process. We're looking for the best plays, and we're putting them into our lineup. Just there's not as many to choose from, so it's a little bit tough tonight. It's not as good as it was last night, I'll give you that. Gary, tell me you're playing the slate.
I very cautiously play NFL preseason slates. I mean, I think I, like everyone else, wait till week 2, week 3. But I understand that the edge in week 1 is so vast that if you know what you're doing, you want to hop in.
All right.
I mean, look, there's some Raiders guys I'm just interested in anyway. Like, I would really like to see how they're kind of utilizing these grinders.
Yeah. Well, is that the thing? Do you see how much people can grind in week 1 of the preseason? That's how you make the Raiders this year?
Well, if you can play a fullback tonight, definitely play a fullback.
Maybe 2 fullbacks. They'll play the wishbone. It's going to be the new look offense from John Gruden.
Everything old is new again.
Let's talk quickly about a couple things I saw last night in the preseason. One of the biggest things for sure was with the first team offense, Christian McCaffrey was out there for every single snap, running between the tackles, everything. And C.J. Anderson, who a lot of people, including myself, thought would come in and take the Jonathan Stewart role, if not more. C.J. Anderson was actually playing with the back. I think C.J. Anderson might have gotten a carry in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I remember hearing that.
Yeah, that's shocking to me. And they've talked a lot about, we're going to give Christian McCaffrey 250 carries. I never saw that as a reality. I thought that was mere coach speak. Should we be moving Christian McCaffrey up in our rankings, Mayo?
I don't think so, because it's almost to the same situation, and maybe it's unfair to compare the two, but like if we're not going to give Chris Thompson 20 carries a game because he can't hold up to it,
Yeah.
are we really going to give Christian McCaffrey, like if they're going to give him 250 carries, he's not making it to 250 carries. He's making it to like 100, and that's the end of his season. Like you need to be able to temper expectations a little bit, especially if you're the Panthers. Like what would be the point of this? Just play him in the slot half the time.
He's jacked, man. And not to say Chris Thompson isn't jacked, but Christian McCaffrey looks jacked.
But what was the point of bringing in C.J. Anderson?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. And I actually think C.J. Anderson's better than Jonathan Stewart. So that would be really surprising to me. I want to see how they're used in week 2. Alex, have you started working on NFL projections yet or too early?
I have, yeah. I'm really excited for week 1. I'm trying to figure out who I have already, so.
Okay, so.
Are you using Rex Burkhead or not? I need to know. Because I want to use him. You said just play the best guys. He's going to be like the best guy on that slate, isn't he?
Well, how would you handle this, Alex? Let's say Rex Burkhead is going to be 50%. What's our play? 50% owned in like the Millie Maker. What's your play on Rex Burkhead?
Well, 50% sounds pretty high. So at that point, I think you could either play him or not, and it wouldn't make a huge difference either way.
Right.
That sounds like people have kind of figured out, the right amount to have him.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about tonight's preseason slate quickly, because I know nobody else is interested besides
You want to talk
me.
about Martavis, don't you?
Yeah, well, we'll get to Martavis. The quarterback, I can't believe nobody's excited about seeing Sam Darnold tonight. I don't expect to see Josh McCown for very long. So the quarterbacks for the Jets are going to be Teddy Bridgewater. They're going to be Sam Darnold. I think both are in play. I think I slightly prefer Darnold. But yeah, people should be excited about seeing Darnold. We're here in New York. Do you have an outlook on the Jets quarterback situation this season, Gary? And it sounds like it's going to be at least more upside than it's been of recent years.
Yeah. And I guess you could say there's some talent if Quincy stays healthy in the wide receiving core, but still, I think that I wouldn't expect Darnold to be starting in the first half of the season. I think there's no reason you bring back McCown.
He could start week 1. Like that's not out of the question.
I just feel like at a certain point you ask yourself, and not that I ever think the Jets organization really knows what they're doing, but why take the steps you took this year re-signing McCown if you're not going to have? I mean, it seems like they all like Bridgewater, so if that is truly the case, they would know they'd have a backup quarterback. So it all seems kind of weird. I really do think Darnold is positioned better for next season than he is this season, but if you're in a 2-quarterback league or something, like I don't think it's a terrible flyer to take towards the end.
What do we do for tonight's game then? Like, do we know the order in which they're all playing? Is going to be like McCown, Darnold, then Bridgewater?
Darnold would be after, probably.
Yeah, I believe Bridgewater's going to play first, but yeah, I still have a lot of work to do. Believe me, we have 2.5 hours to lock. I got to get out of here so I can get to the work on the slate.
But like whoever the third guy to come in would probably be the play then, right?
Sometimes these teams in the preseason game like to run the ball a lot in the fourth quarter. So sometimes I like to have the quarterback that plays earlier, and particularly like football coaches are crazy. Some of them actually care about winning the game, right? So let's say the Jets are winning in the fourth quarter with like 8 minutes left. They might just hand it off and try to win the game instead of like
evaluating
instead of what they should be doing, which is valuing players.
How did you feel about what the Dolphins were doing last night? Because I don't think I'd ever seen it before, where they're basically cycling quarterbacks through series in this quarterback battle. Like, how does that mess with your projections?
The Dolphins are just, a disaster.
Oh, I know.
You're
I'm a Dolphins fan,
right? Yeah. I mean, Jesus, they're
I know.
signing, some of the things they did, like, how are we going to beat the Patriots this year? Oh, we're going to sign Danny Amendola, and we're going to sign Frank Gore.
You got to get that veteran leadership in there.
Yeah.
It's the intangibles that your projections don't account for, guys.
Right, so it's going to take them from like 5.5 wins to like 5.65 wins.
I think it's 5.8 now, the last time I saw Mike Clay's ESPN projections.
Seems crazy to me.
But do you think that's something that teams kind of, it is a copycat league. I don't know if they copycat things in preseason, especially the Dolphins aren't exactly a front runner. I think the last thing the league realized the Dolphins did right was the Wildcat, and that was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But
is that really 10 years ago?
Yeah, it was 10 years ago. Do you fear that coaches see this and go, oh, that's not a half bad idea. Maybe we will start cycling our quarterbacks through so we can see how they play with all these sets of receivers?
Man, I haven't thought about that, but now you have me a little bit worried. But no, I don't think anybody's going to copy the Dolphins.
That's what I keep coming back to is why would you copy the Dolphins?
With all the run Lamar Jackson's getting in the preseason, do you think that they're going to end up using him in almost like the Colin Kaepernick rookie season in San Francisco, where Alex Smith would just be the quarterback, but these random series, Kaepernick would just be in?
Yeah, Lamar Jackson has to be on the field. He's he's awesome.
He's breaking ankles.
I can't wait to see him play quarterback full time. I think that maybe before the season's over, but definitely next season we'll see Lamar Jackson over Joe Flacco. I mean, kid can definitely play. I'm excited about that one. All right, I want to move to running back on tonight's slate because we have Alex's new favorite player, Kerryon Johnson, is in play. Look, so one of the concerns with the first preseason week is always, is a guy too good, right? And I don't know if Kerryon Johnson is too good. We know they have LeGarrette Blount. We know they have Theo Riddick. Kerryon Johnson is a guy I think they want to play a lot in the regular season, but sometimes they give these rookies a lot of work. How excited are you to see Kerryon Johnson this year for the Lions?
Oh, I don't know what to make of it because, as you said, they signed LeGarrette Blount. Yep. Clearly, he's going to be doing a lot of the power running. And then Theo Riddick's kind of the pass-catching back. So I think that kind of makes it pretty unclear what his role is going to be on the team.
Yeah. I'm thinking that Amir Abdullah might play more in an effort to dangle him. Like, maybe he looks really good.
Maybe
and then
Washington
they can dangle him as a trade. Because Amir Abdullah is a talented guy.
Who's been good in the preseason before.
Who's been good in the preseason before. And, yeah, like he could make a big play. I think he's maybe in play for tournaments tonight, specifically on a 2-game slate. One guy that nobody has ever heard of, including myself until today, is this kid on the Jets. His name's Trenton Cannon. He's a rookie out of Central Michigan. Bilal Powell's not going to play a lot. Elijah McGuire's already hurt. Isaiah Crowell is not going to play a lot. Thomas Rawls is kind of a veteran. I don't expect him to play a ton.
I feel like, though, I guess he's banged up, but like
yeah.
he's a 53-man roster bubble guy.
Yeah.
I feel like that's more week 2, week 3, week 4. Probably.
I think Thomas Rawls has earned maybe not enough to not play a lot tonight, but you never know. But I think that they're mostly going to play this kid Trenton Cannon and this guy George Atkinson, who I believe used to be on the Raiders and had a couple decent preseason games.
Notre Dame grad. Fast. That's about all I know about him.
Yeah.
He's
so
fast.
That should wet your beak. That name right there, Trenton Cannon, should make you be like, oh, I got to play preseason tonight.
What do we do with the Raiders backfield?
Yeah. I think there's options there. I think they're the kid on the Falcons intrigues me more, Ito Smith. But yeah.
Is like Rashard going to get a whole lot of run tonight?
Or even DeAndre Washington?
Man, people think he's dead. Not dead.
I think he might be too good too. I don't know. It's hard. But sometimes with similar coaching staffs, one thing you can do is go back and look at preseason usage from week 1 last year and see how they handled their second and third.
So what do you do with the Raiders?
Fourth and fifth. Well, the Raiders, we have a problem. John Gruden, we can go back 10 years and see what he did in week 1. At wide receiver, Martavis Bryant is a guy that I think a lot of people are going to play because they know his name, right? So I try not to worry about ownership in preseason almost at all because there's so many dead lineups, there's so many people making so many mistakes. But Martavis Bryant, I expect to be super popular. They've been hating on this dude. They say he's not trying hard enough, he can't learn the playbook, et cetera, et cetera. So I think they're going to throw him out there tonight and kind of let him sink or swim. So he's certainly in play at 5,500. Chad Hansen, I think, is interesting on the Jets. And Trey McBride also was a guy I liked coming out of college, William and Mary. He's bounced around. I believe he got cut by the Titans, and he's now on the Jets. So, small slate. Are you intrigued to play now? Either of you guys?
I might toss in a lineup. It's hard to talk about anything and then not toss in a lineup.
Yeah, exactly. Alex, play. Take some of my games. I'm not selling any games. Let's play.
All right, I'll play.
Okay.
Head to head.
Yes. Let's play.
Saul Goodman's going to be real upset that you're just playing him like that. That's no work involved at all, getting this head-to-head matchup.
All you have to do is ask, you know what I mean? And he'll play. That's all you got to do. Yeah.
Well, so all because you're a nice guy. You know,
Yeah.
Saul Goodman, he's like a troll.
Right.
He doesn't make that user experience as good as you do.
Friendly is always good, exactly. User experience, that's where it's at. All right, let's transition to the MLB Live Final, which is Saturday. When you get ready for a live final, Alex, how far ahead do you look at the slate? The slate is tomorrow night. Have you started looking at it yet?
I'm working on tonight's slate because they have that Showdown championship. So I heard that 60 of the 85 people in the final have never played Showdown before or something like that. I've been working on that all season, so I'm feeling like I can pick the right relief pitchers to get the win tonight.
You have 4 entries in the final tomorrow. How does that change your strategy, if at all?
I think it's awesome because you can have several favorite teams and you don't get that FOMO, you know, picking one team, so like the stack. So I think I'll have fun trying to figure out what the 4 best stacks are, and then I'll be able to mix it up and not have too much exposure to any one guy.
Do you think with 135 entry field, it is mandatory to do full stacks, or do you think a lineup of maybe mini stacks, like 3, maybe 1, 2, or 3, 4, or 5, 6 in the order lineups can work?
I think stacking is kind of like the classic strategy. I've been seeing people on DraftKings be kind of experimenting with not stacking or maybe having a 3-person stack. I'm not really sure. Like, I think the safe play is just putting out a full stack, but I don't want to reveal exactly what I'm going to be.
Yeah,
you know
why don't you just tell everybody your team?
Release your teams right now. And let the.
I'm kind of curious though. Like, we have a nice kind of medium-sized slate tomorrow night. If you could pick your perfect-sized slate, what does that tend to be?
With baseball, I really like the 15-game slates.
Okay.
I think there's a sweet spot of having like 7 to 15. So I think tomorrow night, on the lower end of that, so it should be like a really engaging night.
Do we know how many? So you have the 4 entries. Does anyone else have 4 entries?
Sean's on much.
Yeah, Sean's on guys 4th like the first month of the season or something. But yeah, there's several guys at 4.
Okay, so like, does the rest of the field have to play against what you guys are up to because you have 4 entries to try to project out? Hey, if the most popular stack, and like we know since they have 4 entries that they're going to have one of these stacks, we can't take that stack anymore, so we don't want to go head to head with that and just try to go contrarian. If it was you with 1 entry, is that something that you would go for?
Oh, that's definitely an interesting thought. I mean, you're going to know if you pick a contrarian stack, not many people are going to have them. I've definitely gone to that strategy in previous tournaments, so I think that could be a good one.
Projecting ownership in live finals is notoriously hard because obviously you have a lot of sharp people here and everybody's thinking about ownership and kind of game theory. How do you go about projecting ownership for a live final?
Yeah, I think the same way as a normal slate. I think like these guys make up such a large percentage of the contest on a night-to-night basis that whatever you do on a normal day to project ownership is going to work tomorrow too.
Do you feel like you get into like a rabbit season, duck season scenario where you're sitting there thinking like, okay, I think this is going to be contrarian, but everyone here is a sharp, so everyone also might think this is contrarian.
Right.
So maybe it's not actually contrarian. Then you start like tying yourself into knots.
Leveling.
Or do you just go in there and you're like, I know this is what I like. I don't want to focus too much on kind of playing these mental gymnastic games.
I think you like nailed it on the head with the rabbit season, duck season thing.
It's a great analogy. It
yeah,
really works
I mean, the problem is I don't know if it's going to be rabbit season or duck season yet.
Yeah.
So I gotta hedge my bets there.
do any of us really though?
Do you do any like scouting on the other people who are in there to see what style that they play? Like, would that just going to be like, hey, this guy has 4 entries, this is how he tends to construct his lineups, so I know what he might be up to. Or I know when this guy has 1 entry in some of these smaller field, larger buy-in tournaments, he tends to play like more of a cashy lineup with too many stacks. Is that something to go scout out, or are you just at the point where I'm not concerned about what anyone else is doing, I'll do what I do and I'll win?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to have a good read on the field. Ideally, you want to be doing something that no one else is doing, because that's going to give you the advantage on the field. And then, like, trying to determine what that is, that's the real problem. So you got to kind of make that read. I'm going to be looking over a lot of shoulders at people's laptops if I get the chance.
Well, that's the move. Just walk through the hotel or walk through the space and just be like, yeah.
Well, there's bright lights everywhere.
Yeah, listen,
it's this big live event.
I have
People
access
are
to
distracted.
cameras.
This is the perfect time
We
for
can
some
get a live feed going.
How many live finals have you been to, and what's your best result?
I've been to probably a little bit more than a dozen. The best result I had, I think I got like in the top 10. So
Okay.
I still haven't gotten that big win yet, but I think that means I'm due, right?
Are you aware? Yeah, you're definitely. Are you aware that Pat Mayo will be the one handing out the big check? And I mean, Awesomo has to be one of the favorites to get that big check from Pat Mayo. Is it confirmed yet? That
No, not confirmed.
Okay,
I'm just
He's willing it
as
into
long as
existence.
people keep saying
Yeah.
it, then it will just happen.
Someone's going to win and be like, oh, I thought Pat was hitting this giant check. And they're like, ah, fine, Mayo, get over here.
I look forward to it.
This is actually a game changer. I'm gonna have to bring my best blazer.
Yeah, I mean, I got myself a fun one for tomorrow night at the live final.
Just make sure you don't clash with Pat. I get a lot of heat when I happen to clash clothing style with Pat. So people on the internet, not the nicest sometimes. As you know, you've met.
Well, he looks like a pretty hard guy to stand next to and look good. So.
Well, I'm very short, so everyone just towers over me. That's the big advantage that everyone has.
We've heard mistakes from people drinking too much, partying too much around the live final. I know you're going to the Yankees game tonight. Do you plan on going to bed early, getting ready, or do you plan on being out all night till 4 a.m. like me and Pat were last night?
I think more like you and Pat were last night.
Okay.
Probably. I'm not that worried about tomorrow. I'm trying to live in the moment, and maybe that'll be my downfall.
Okay, good.
Just remember to wake up before it starts.
Yeah.
That would be the move.
Yeah.
All right, we have about 30 seconds. Any final questions for Alex, Pat, or Garion?
Can I have some of the money if you I can use it.
Hasn't said no yet.
Pat, tell the people what's on the schedule for the Pat Mayo experience.
All right, coming up right after, we're going to go to Yankee Stadium to check in with Adam Kaufman and see what he's up to. And then we're going to have Jake Seeley, we're going to have Gary Thorne, Steve Buchanan, Alex Jankowski, and Russell Whalen all over. Plus, to talk golf, NFL, and MLB. And you have to know that the World Championships, DraftKings Fantasy Baseball World Championships, is coming to you live tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll be there on site. Levy will be there, not on air. He'll just be like hanging out. But I'll have to be the one talking. He'll be the one having fun. I'll try to entertain and get you up to date on everything that is going on. Plus, you can come down if you're in the New York City area. Come down, buy a ticket, and watch all the games and sweat along with everyone else. However, that's going to do it for myself. You want to take this out here?
Yes. For Pat, for Alex, for Gary, and I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.
Stadium right now, and Kaufman is going to be down there. It looks pretty terrific right now, to tell you the truth.
That shot for about a minute.
So,
you guys want me to grab Aaron Judge? He's running by. Just try and take him real quick. Torres, how he's feeling left hearing at the event tomorrow. I got my
Mayo experience. Pat Mayo experience. Pat Mayo experience. Pat Mayo experience. Experience.
welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, live from New York City, coming at you for the next 2 hours. Jake Seeley will be here in studio to talk about all of the latest NFL injuries, how that affects your season-long drafts, and maybe, just maybe, some early draft strategy, because he's involved in a bunch of drafts. Tomorrow, we'll talk to him. Then, around 5:40, 5:45, Russell Whalen, the NYC punter, will be in studio to talk about the PGA Championship. We were going to sweat the cuts live, but right now, the PGA is on delay, so hopefully it's back in action by the time right now the cut does look like it's going to be around even. Data Golf has it around 89% right now to finish it even. Then, at around 6:20 till the end of the hour, we're going to have Gary Thorne, my main man Steve Buchanan, on the set, along with Alex Jankowski, to get you ready for both the Yankees showdown slate and the full MLB DraftKings slate for the night. But first, let's go to Yankee Stadium. Adam Kaufman is out there live right now. Kauf, what are you seeing out there? You look hot.
It's really hot. We talk about the sweat in terms of fantasy all the time, Mayo. I'm literally sweating profusely out here at Yankee Stadium. It's very hot, but you know what? It's great. It's a great scene. It's a beautiful stadium if you've never been here. It's my first time here, and to be out here on the field and having players run right by us as they get ready for batting practice. Some of them, as you can see, probably taking part in it just behind me. Obviously, some guys out in the outfield just getting loose, ready for a big game for them, because let's not forget, the Yankees, while they are one of the best teams in Major League Baseball this year, they are still a whopping 8 games behind the Red Sox in the East, and you know New York does not want to be in that wild card game come the playoffs.
Well, I see batting practice going on behind you, and like you're not watching it. Are you afraid you're going to take a ball in the back of the head?
Petrified. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that would be just a perfect capper to what is, like I said, a sweltering day. You know what? They got the cages up over here. I realize I'm not at maybe the best angle. I think I'm at such an angle that if the ball came flying toward me, it would miss. It would come zooming by me. I think I'm safe. I don't want you to worry though. That's the most important thing. You just stay calm over there in your air-conditioned studio.
Well, listen, I mean, I do have the jacket on, and the air conditioning is really helping my sweating problem right now. They're like, I'm not even convinced you're really at Yankee Stadium. I think you might be on a green screen, sir.
Is there a green screen?
Yeah.
No, look, balls getting hit out of the yard during BP. We had people run behind us before. I mean, maybe I can try and find a real person walking by during one of these hits. I tried to grab Aaron Judge before, who's not that big, by the way, and he just came flying by. I guess he had more important things to do.
You didn't grab him by the wrist, did you? Because I don't think that would have turned out well for him.
For him, yeah, I think it would have turned out very poorly for me. I don't think he has to worry about me injuring his wrist by simply grabbing onto it. The guy, I joked before, obviously, I say in jest, he's not that big. The guy is a mammoth human being. He could pretty much step on me, and I'm not like Levitan small. I'm not that small. I'm of reasonable stature.
Yeah, you're like slightly smaller than me, and I'm small, so that means you're small too. Anyway, Adam Kaufman will be checking back in with you live from Yankee Stadium as we go over the course of the next 2 hours.
Sounds great.
Lineups will be up a little bit later on, then we'll get the final weather report and anything that you see live from the stadium. So follow Kauf on Twitter and keep it here live for that. But now, guess who's here? It's the all-in kid, Jake Seeley. What's up?
What's going on? I felt like I was listening to, when your buddy takes a call next to you and you kind of pick up pieces in the background.
Oh, you don't have the earpiece in?
No.
So it was so loud you could hear it through my earpiece.
Just a little bit. I caught like he was trying to say, well, there's stuff going behind me, so I don't have a green screen. Like that proves that you don't have a green screen.
That proves, yeah.
Look at the stuff back here.
Yeah, he's actually just right behind that pillar.
Yeah.
He's just on a green screen. We can't hear him. He's muted.
Right.
He's in like one of those boxes that they would have on Family Feud where you can't hear it.
Oh, yeah, in the background.
Yeah, so he's just behind there. It's all fake news.
Exactly.
Anyway, thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, speaking of the sweat like him,
Hey, traffic. Man, New York's crazy, right?
It is. I'm glad I'm not wearing a jacket like you were.
Well, I mean, you should be jealous that I'm wearing this jacket.
I definitely feel underdressed.
How nice. Listen, with this color and that color, we'd be fine.
That is true.
So tell people what you're actually doing in New York.
I'm doing the flex leagues in New York as I do every single year. The Fantasy League of Experts, started by myself, David Ganos, Jamie Eisenberg. 2 drafts coming up tomorrow, a non-PPR and a super flex half-point PPR.
Oh, there's a super flex non-half-point PPR?
Yeah.
That's a tough one to game your rankings for.
Well, so we had the PPR last weekend. This weekend is the non-PPR, so we get both covered. And then it's the Superflex half-point of what we try to get people to play. Like, you should be valuing quarterbacks more. You should be playing half-point PPRs, the happy medium. So that's what we're trying to get people acclimated to.
All right, so we got a bunch of injuries to run through here from the last night. But one thing that I haven't hit on basically all preseason, because I just don't play in any of these leagues anymore, in 2 quarterback leagues, when should you draft a quarterback?
First round. If you're at the end of the first round.
What if you're pick like 5 in a 12-team league?
You can still get away with the running
What if you're
back.
at number 1? Could you just pick a quarterback?
You could. I wouldn't recommend it.
Because the most success I've ever had in these leagues, like actually winning them, is usually when I pick towards like the back end of the first round and I just pick the 2 best quarterbacks.
You can double down real quick.
Yeah.
That's why I don't like 2 quarterback either, because if you're playing in a 12 team, you're automatically starting the draft with 4 people who don't have a quarterback for their bye. That's why Superflex.
Oh, I like that. So, but even with Superflex, do you treat it as a 2 quarterback league?
You do in the draft, but I've come out of Superflex with only 2 quarterbacks before, no backup.
And then pick one up.
Yeah, because if you pick up off the waiver wire, I mean, there's a good chance instead of drafting Josh McDown, there's a wide receiver that could get close to what he's going to get on that week anyway.
I suppose, but I still think I would rather roll the dice even with one of these bottom end quarterbacks. Even someone like Josh McCown. Let's say Josh McCown. Week 1, or even Ryan Fitzpatrick for the first 3 weeks.
See, but you don't need him for the first couple weeks because you got your other 2 quarterbacks. You're only worried about the bye. So I'd rather throw a flyer on a Lamar Jackson or something like that.
But the guys can get hurt.
They can. I'm just not that worried about it. You can build enough depth. In a Superflex, you can build enough depth that for the 1 week they're on bye, you're not that concerned.
All right, let's talk about these guys. There's one big one we should really get to.
Deion Kane?
Yeah, Deion Kane could be out for the year. That sucks. No, last night, Darius Geis. It didn't seem like it was going to be that big of a problem.
No.
Like, I was following it on Twitter when I was out till like 4 a.m. with Levitan. I was like, I don't think this is going to be that big of a deal. Then, I'm just updating. It's like, boom, torn MCL, out for the year. So
Yeah.
that's not good.
No.
So what happens now? Because people are like instantly saying, got to bring up Chris Thompson. He's like a number 15 running back in PPR. I don't know how much his role changes at this point. He'll get a few extra carries, but it's not like he's going to take over the goal line work.
No, he's not. And the thing is, Chris Thompson might get a few more touches, maybe, like 10, 15% at most, but that still keeps him in that 14, 16 range anyway at max. So your Chris Thompson's just not going to be the lead carry option, whether it's on the short yardage, the goal line, getting 20-plus touches a game is just not going to happen.
Well, and like you pointed out, too, like when we did the show earlier in the week, still pretty relevant, by the way, because this is sort of a situation we talked about. But like with the Redskins, like they ran a lot once they got inside the 5-yard line. So the opportunity for either Rob Kelly or Samaje Perine or Capri Bibbs, who I just keep bringing up because he's still on the roster and always gets action at some point of time. But like, what are the chances one of these, okay, let's just narrow it down to Kelly or Perine. What's the chances it's one of them, it's a split, or it's someone who's not even on the roster yet? Like if Terrence West gets cut by the Saints, could it be Jeremy Hill if he gets cut by the Patriots?
I think that one makes sense. I think Orleans Darkwa still sitting out there makes sense if he's healthy.
Darkwa Duck?
Yeah,
but he's terrible. Why would they want him?
Because he's actually was quite good
he's
behind
great.
a miserable
He's
offensive
great.
line.
He's fantastic. Get Orleans Darkwa.
But look at what he did playing for the Giants. I'm just saying that he would be a perfect fit for what they need. I think they're obviously going to try and get something out of Rob Kelly or Samaje Perine at this point. I lean towards Perine. It's only second season. He hasn't had a ton of chances to prove. I mean, obviously, the yards per carry weren't great last year.
No,
but it's better than Rob Kelly.
And their offensive line was banged up, too. And now it's coming back.
Year.
It's healthier. I don't know how great it is, but it's going to be better than it was last year. And that's sort of how you have to weigh it sometimes. Now, one bad injury, and all of a sudden it's probably garbage again. And then Perine's probably kind of crappy.
It's probably better than the Panthers right now.
But yeah, that's true. And now they have Christian McCaffrey running full-time out of the backfield for some reason. How long can that last before he's dead?
C.J. Anderson didn't get one touch with the first-team offense.
That's strange, right? Maybe they're so confident in C.J. Anderson. Maybe it's all just fake news. Maybe it's like, hey, we're going to play.
They pulled up my column from 2015.
Yeah, what they're going to do is they're going to show you all this stuff in the preseason and then just never do it in the regular season.
Right.
But can we really believe that I know that it came out on Twitter just like, yeah, Chris McCaffrey's going to touch the ball 30 times a game. What if that's true? Is he the best player in fantasy?
Okay, if that's true, and he played 16 games, he could be in that top conversation with Le'Veon Bell, David Johnson, the rest of them. If they do that, though, he's probably dead by week 7.
Yeah.
Like, there's something to be said for that body mass index. I know he added 6 pounds of muscle.
Which I still contend is very hard to do. You go try to put on 6 pounds of muscle.
I know. I've been trying to put on muscle for years. Nobody believes how much I lift. But the point being, so I understand how hard it is. I'm just saying that's not significant enough to make Christian McCaffrey not a threat to get hurt at his size still if he's touching the ball 20-plus times a game. If they do that, they are going – not another team movie. He's going to be that guy in the end zone where one half of his body's over here and the other half's over there.
So you probably have to move down. Like, would you move McCaffrey up because of this, do you think?
Slightly. Not much. I already have him as a fringe inside as a fringe RB1 anyway.
There was one other guy I wanted to bring up because in this range of where they're being drafted, like Jarek's going around the same time, Devontae Freeman, would you take him over those two guys?
Yes.
I wouldn't take him over Freeman, I don't think. And I don't know.
Freeman worries me with he doesn't want to change his running style and the multiple concussions now. That's why.
You know what doesn't worry me about Freeman? The fact that he could be the #1 player in fantasy.
Because he did it 1 year?
Yeah, he did it. He done it.
That was the 1 year where 0 RB made sense, and if you look at it, it's because there was multiple like the only reason he finished #1 was he had a great season.
Yeah, it was a Frank Gore type of end of the season. He played all the games.
Yeah.
But he was still good that year.
He still was.
And he was good last year too. Like I think that if we all expect, and I think most of the people around, whether we're talking about football, trying to project football, looking at analytics, or even not, everyone expects the Falcons' offense to be better this year. To regress back up to a point where they meet somewhere in the middle of where they were 2 years ago to last year, because they really should have scored a lot more touchdowns than they did. I think they averaged 14 fewer points per game than they did 2 years ago. Like that's got to be wrong. And then you're year 2 with a new offense, and we saw the leap. I mean, obviously Sarkisian is not Kyle Shanahan, but in year 2 under Shanahan, they took a big bump. Maybe in a new offense, year 2 is where Matt Ryan's at his most comfortable. If this offense gets going, someone like Freeman, and he averaged almost 15 PPR points a game last year anyway, if he does better than that, he's in the discussion to be a fringy top 10 guy.
He is, and I'm not denying that. I am concerned.
You're not a Devontae Freeman denier?
No, I'm not. But a lot of what you're saying, too, is that's more of the Matt Ryan mythos, if you will. It's his second year under a system.
But I just think the extraneous
pieces.
I was just sort of joking
No,
about
I
narrative
know,
in that
I know,
sense.
but
If they do get better, it should be more points for Freeman.
It should be, but what if Tevin Coleman gets back
It's not
into the
Tevin
mix?
Coleman. Heard enough. I'm a Tevin Coleman
We've
denier.
gone through this before with Tevin Coleman and Devontae Freeman have both had RB1 weeks together. We've done this before 2 years ago, and I'm with you. I don't think they get back to 2 years ago. I think they're better than last year. You just can't. They went 180 on the touchdown ratio. Like you can't expect this to happen again. And then they're like, yeah, we won't make it happen again. We'll go completely the opposite
Same
direction.
thing happened to like Mariota too, because in the rookie season he was throwing a touchdown on like 4% of dropbacks, which is like better than Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
And then it went completely the other way
like
last year.
0.04.
So he'll find himself in the middle somewhere and get slightly better. Go back up to his mean. I think.
Well, they got rid of the exotic smash mouth, so.
Yeah. Well, I'm just very curious to see how that offense is run.
I'm excited.
I think
LaFleur comes from the McNay tree. That's it.
I'm just curious to see if there's like different packages, if Derrick Henry is in, or if Lewis is in, or if they can play them both at the same time. Like just if you can have an offense that has like three really distinctive different looks, and who that would benefit over time. I think that Mariota is just the guy you want to take on that team.
Buy the cake and not the icing.
Exactly, and he's especially that. I mean, Corey Davis, yeah. But like Tywan Taylor's getting buzzed now. Rashard Matthews is eventually going to be back. Delaney Walker. Who do you pick? Do you pick Lewis? Do you pick Henry? I prefer Lewis, but like it's not. I'm not going out of my way and being like, you know who's going to be great? Dion Lewis. I just think that he's a better value and has a better fantasy floor than Derrick Henry does.
I'm with you, and I'm taking Lewis at the discount.
Yeah.
If you told me somebody, though, I will put out there, and I'll put the flag on, it was Corey Davis. I will say he will be amazing because Corey Davis, I've said it before, last year, he has Terrell Owens potential. That's the skill set he has. That's an enormous ceiling to put on anybody.
So you're putting him in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, I'm putting, and he's not going to show up.
Which I love, by the way. Big fan of him.
He's going to have his own party.
Yeah, it's great. I'd go to T.O.'s party.
Wouldn't you?
Did you hear Ray Lewis talk? Ray Lewis was talking for like 3 hours.
How do I not do the Oscars music on these guys?
Well, because it's not like, when someone wins an
15
Oscar.
minutes caps.
When someone wins an Oscar, it's people like me walking out. When you try to play Ray Lewis off the stage, it might not go so well for you, put it that way.
I might run into
Based on history,
couple
which I've
years
heard,
ago.
speculation, let's say, it's not something I would want to be up to with Ray Lewis.
No, but
or anyone.
They need
that's
to
like,
put a 15-minute cap on that nonsense.
Yeah, I can see that. But like the Curtis Martin one was so good.
I didn't watch any of it.
That's from ages ago. But if you go back and ever watch one Hall of Fame speech, it is the Curtis Martin speech. It's so good.
I'll put it on the list. I don't watch award shows and all that.
I like award shows, but you like being a part of the pop culture vibe. It's like
I do.
It's one of the few things on Twitter that people interact with in real time.
I don't even
besides
show up
sports.
for the awards you and I get nominated for separately, obviously, but I don't even show up for that stuff. I
don't go to that either.
I don't do awards.
If I won more, I would go. If they told me I was winning, I would go.
No,
I just know I'm going to lose, so
We
I'm not going to
already had
go.
one
I
accepted
don't
on
need
my
to show up
behalf.
and be embarrassed.
No, we won one, and I didn't show somebody
Yeah,
accepted
you
it.
won one. I didn't.
Chris Meany accepted it on my behalf.
Of course, because Chris Meany's a great guy.
Yeah, he is.
All right, let's talk more injuries right now. Indianapolis, there's a 2-4. You got Marlon Mack with a hamstring problem. He might be out till week 1, a little bit later. I always think with hamstrings, you think 3 weeks, no football. This is like the best time ever to have a hamstring injury because you can actually sit out, not practice, and be ready for week 1. But these things tend to linger, these soft tissue injuries. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him try to come back, not be at full strength, potentially re-aggravate the problem at some point. Which is great news for Jordan Wilkins, by the way. So that's who I've landed on as my guy, unless for whatever reason Hines just falls and falls and falls. Wilkins is still going 3rd in that backfield. But does this give a discount potential to Marlon Mack that if he starts going to like round 10, round 11, he's still probably the starter?
I don't know if he is. I mean, you also look at the usage last night after he left was a lot of Robert Turbin, who is suspended.
Suspended 4 games.
Right. So but that's. My concern wasn't that. I was looking for what you were looking for. I was saying, Jordan Wilkins' time. Wilkins the best all-around running back.
And he played well.
Yeah, he did.
Carries.
And Nyheim Hines is down the Christian McCaffrey, even lesser, Chris Thompson more role. The Theo Riddick is explosive pass catcher, but he's not going to be the lead. Whoever it is, he's not going to be the lead. He'll be the pass-catching running back. So I'm with you with the Wilkins. My concern is because there's enough people that we're already talking about him already as the one that you just want to take.
Yeah, but
he's going to start moving up.
He can move up. I think this is something we actually talked about on Wednesday, but what is the point where you don't take him? Like, if he's going in the 9th round, who cares?
Oh, no.
It's a 9th round.
You're underestimating the overreaction.
No.
Because the tweets last night was...
In the flex league that you're playing in tomorrow, yes, I agree with you. In the draft that I'm doing with, like, my friends from back home, that's not where he's going. And in the majority of people's fantasy leagues, he's not going to be going to, like, the 4th round.
I'm just telling you, last night, people showing me roster moves in their leagues of people dropping their tight end for Jordan Akins. I'm just telling you, This is the home league action that you see from preseason. We do it every single year, the overreaction. I'm telling you, the average home league is going to move Jordan Wilkins up. I would probably even say the 7th round.
It still might be a steal. This happened to me with Kareem Hunt last year.
I don't want anything
Obviously,
to do with
Kareem Hunt's a lot better and was in a better spot. But as soon as he got propped up, like, hey, it looks like he's going to start, Spencer Ware went down. He started going like the back end of the first round, second round. You were on board, like, take him anyway. He's still really good.
I was on board before that.
You were, but even I was on board too. But after he moved up to that ADP, I was like, that's just too expensive for me. It turned out I was the idiot. I should have taken him.
That's not the first time.
No, it's not the first time. I get tons of stuff wrong all the time.
But here's my problem with Wilkins. The difference between the two. Hunt, the backfield was his. Wilkins is going to, like, unless Hines gets hurt too.
But it could be his, though.
I don't think it will.
It could be. Even if
Hines
it's a
isn't going
60-40
away.
share, even if it's a 65-35 share, I think that would be an important, for where he would be going. Let's say 6th, 7th round. Let's say that's the peak of where he ends up going. I think that's a worthy investment for that round of pick.
If he gets the 60-40.
If he gets it, but that's what you're gambling on it, obviously.
Right.
But with the other running backs going in that range, like Kerryon Johnson, like, I think I'd rather take Wilkins at this point.
At this point, but and also the smart thing to do is maybe just take Wilkins, hope he goes off, or at least really good first 2 or 3 weeks.
Trade him.
Trade him before Turbin comes back, before Mack comes back.
I don't know if Turbin's he might steal like goal line touches, which would worry me most, but I just...
Again,
if Robert Turbin has been around this long, how come he's never had the job?
I don't disagree with you, but let me ask you a question: is then what was the point of showcasing him last night? You're not to trade.
Maybe he could end up in Washington.
No, because you're not going to trade somebody who's suspended. Nobody's going to trade for him.
Yeah, you can. The Raiders traded for Martavis Bryant. He could be suspended.
No, but the fact is, you just gave all the. Why are you going to trade for somebody out for 4 weeks when you can go pick up Jeremy Hill in a trade, possibly? You could go pick Darkwa off the. He's just sitting out there waiting. Terrence West, like you said, is probably going to get cut. You don't need to trade for somebody who's suspended for 4 weeks.
Yeah, but he did so many steroids. He's probably in great shape now. See, that's a guy that you want coming back fresh, probably off a new cycle because he's not getting tested again. I mean, that's the way you want to go at this.
I think they usually get tested right away.
That's probably true. Yeah, that's. I mean, if I was running the drug testing, I just wouldn't test anyone.
Who was the one that was randomly getting tested? Oh, that was baseball. Thames, when he was getting tested every single week last year.
Yeah, I would have tested him every single week too. Like, what are you doing? Hey, as soon as he started getting all those tests, all of a sudden, like 2 months later, like, didn't hit a home run again. So in that same game, Deion Kane, who we were talking up as a potential number 2 in that offense to start on the outside, suffered a knee injury. There's no update yet, but it seems like it's serious, and he could miss the year.
It does.
So Ryan Grant up?
Oh, definitely. No question about it, because this is the big thing you and I were talking about earlier is it's the number 2 in the Colts offense. If I could tell you, what did I say? I said, if I could tell you today who the number 2 is in the Colts receiving game, you're taking him in every draft, and you're taking him
in the last round, basically.
No. But if I told you who was the number 2 as of today, like definitively, you would take him like the 6th or 7th round. You would take him as a wide receiver.
Would you really take Ryan Grant in the 6th or 7th round?
If he was going to be the number 2 for the entire season, absolutely. Because if he's the number 2 all season long, he's going to catch 800 or so yards, 5 or 6 touchdowns. That's going to be the number 2 with Andrew Luck.
But you could take him in like the 12th round because that's where he's going to go.
Exactly.
But like Chester Rogers, I guess would.
There's your Robert Turbin. Like if you haven't done it by now, what are we waiting for?
What do you?
But Deion Kane for me is really painful. He had, and more painful for him.
I'm sure it was a tad more painful for him. You were heartbroken. He was knee broken.
I was. The fact is he had the best skill set. But Ryan Grant, there was a reason that the Ravens went after him at first and then screwed him over and said, oh, we want Michael Crabtree. There's this injury that you have. But the point is, he has some promise. We saw it last year with the Redskins. Although breakout of 450, 500 yards and 4 touchdowns. I don't know how much of a breakout that is. But.
Well, it's one of these things too, where like you're upset and you're hurt that he's hurt that he's hurt, and I'm more devastated, maybe even with him, because I wanted to make a lot of like Dean Cain new Superman jokes all year. Now I can't do that. I may have to like take him in like Dynasty and like change my team name to that. Oh, so that's devastating.
The Adventures of Superman, wasn't that the name of it?
I thought it was
Or was it?
It was the one with Terry Hatcher from the early 90s.
Yeah, right.
Anyway,
it was fabulous.
It was top-notch stuff. Shoulder injury for Matt Breida.
Yeah.
There's 2. George Kittle hurt his shoulder as well. No structural damage with Kittle, although his seems more significant than Breida's. But this might give a chance for Joe Williams to potentially become the number 2 in San Francisco behind Jarek, which I think is a spot where I think has value.
It definitely does. Don't we have to pound the table for Joe Williams like they were last? Don't we have to do that when we talk about
doing that last year?
No, everybody was saying that's what Shanahan was doing.
Oh, yes, that's right.
He's pounding the table to get Joe Williams, and everybody was drafting him at the beginning of August because everybody, oh, it's Joe Williams. But the point being, which still stands, you want the number 2 running back in the Shanahan offense. Is Tevin Coleman. They had value. It wasn't consistent, but it was value. And what you saw again last night is what we've been trying to say this entire time. Jerick McKinnon is not going to consistently touch the ball 20-plus times a game. He's not built for it. You don't want him to do that. It's fine. He can have the Lamar Miller role, which is 14, 18, somewhere in that range per game. High-end RB2. Some weeks he'll be an RB1. But that second person is going to have value because that's how Kyle Shanahan runs his offense. And there's a lot of touches out of that backfield. So if Breida is fine, good value there. If he's not, take a flyer. But they had Mostert that looked well last. Actually, Mostert looked better than Williams did. So it's kind of
hard to judge because you don't know who they're going up against.
Right.
It was like C.J. Anderson scored a touchdown against like the fourth team on the other
it's
side.
the narrative. You could go both ways. You could say, well, he was playing with the second team unit, so the defense he wasn't facing wasn't that good. And then you could say, well, the offensive line wasn't as good, so he was doing more of his own. So you can kind of create.
You can spin it any way that you want.
Yeah.
Who were you more impressed with last night, Lamar Jackson or Baker Mayfield?
Oh, Baker Mayfield.
Or David Njoku?
Oh, David Njoku was a fringe tight end one for me already. But I don't know if I was more impressed with Baker Mayfield. I just liked what I saw. It's everything. It's confirmation bias, if you want to call it. But watching him play, watching him keep his eyes up while he was moving, watching him make those plays and extending them, and the accuracy and the athleticism, like everything that everybody who tried to promote Baker Mayfield and say that, who cares about the height? You guys are overreacting. He's a lot better than you think he is, was just kind of confirmed last night. And that kind of felt good. But Lamar Jackson at the same thing because he's taking over at some point this year.
I don't know if he's going to take over. I think they're going to gear a sort of offense with him in it that they can just bring into games.
No, because the Ravens aren't making the playoffs.
Yeah, they're going over the number, for sure.
It's
one of the best bets on the board.
No, I think they're under. I think they're missing the playoffs.
Why? Well, they were bad last year and almost won 10 games.
I don't see that.
And they're better this year.
I see they're more strength this year. Well, they're not going to sweep the Browns, so,
They probably will sweep the Browns. People need to calm down on the
Browns. The 7-9 Browns?
Yeah, probably the 4-12 Browns. I mean, they're going to go 4-0 in the preseason. People are like, oh my God, the Browns are unstoppable.
I think either Joe Flacco is going to be poor enough, just like he was last year at some point, or they're going to hit that 3-6 range or 4-7, and then it's going to be later in the season.
Harbaugh doesn't let this happen. He's too good of a coach. It doesn't happen.
Harbaugh's on the hot seat.
He's not. Why would he ever be on the hot? I know that he is, but I don't get.
Because if they miss the playoffs,
But why? But they haven't been bad, and they have Joe.
Because
he didn't sign Joe Flacco.
It's the NFL, man. It's the same reason.
I would take him in. I think he's like a top 5 coach in football. I would love for my team. I don't have a team, but if I had a team, I would love for them to hire him if he was.
I'll definitely give you top 10 because I'm not going to try and think of him off the top of my head. But I agree with you. He's a great coach. I don't think he should be on the hot seat. But he is. That's just what happens in the NFL. It's the same thing with the rookie quarterbacks, despite the fact that some of them should sit. Josh Allen should probably sit for the entire career. But at some point, you get that you don't invest a top 10 pick and the fans go crazy. And at some point, the NFL teams bend and they end up playing guys. And I mean, look at what they did to Deshaun Kaiser last year with the Browns. I wasn't a Kaiser fan, and I still am not, but they destroyed that kid last year.
So you're saying he's not going to beat out Aaron Rodgers for the Packers starting job?
No, my point being is even with you still with the Browns, I don't think he was going to be the starting quarterback.
George Kittle, like I mentioned, no structural damage in the shoulder. We don't know how long he's going to miss, if he misses any actual time at all. Garrett Selleck would be the next man up. People are going down in the San Francisco team. They might have enough players to field their next preseason game.
They might not. The Kittle thing will probably draw him back to where he should be going in drafts. I thought he was being overdrafted anyway, because the biggest thing I keep saying is, it's undeniable. I'm not disagreeing with the fact that Kittle is the most athletic, most skilled tight end that they have, is actually one of the most athletic tight ends in the league. My problem is, the last week of last season, Selleck is coming off an injury and gets almost the exact same snap count as George Kittle. That tells me something about how the team wants to use them, that it might not be George Kittle seeing 70-75% of the tight end passing game. So that was my biggest concern with him.
All right, so if we have George Kittle, let's juxtapose him with David Njoku for a second, too. So if Kittle's going to fall down drafts, which we expect, and everyone just saw Njoku kind of go nuts, so he's going to go way up.
Right.
Where, if we're talking about, what's the breaking point for, Wilkins, where you would draft him, what's the breaking point for Njoku now? Because he might start being, it wouldn't surprise me that if someone took him ahead of, Delaney Walker.
It wouldn't surprise me either. And
I wouldn't do that.
No.
But I will see that in drafts.
I was willing to take Njoku around that 9-10 range. I was somebody that was a fan of his to begin with because it's very similar to Evan Ingram. He's basically he's a giant wide receiver. He's not very good in pass blocking. But as you said, if you're talking Delaney Walker, now you're talking about him climbing up into the 7th, 8th round. That's too early for me.
Yeah, I still like Ben Watson. I still like Vance McDonald. I like these guys that you can just get at the end.
Right.
I don't think that the separation week-to-week consistency is going to be that much different. And even someone like Ben Watson, if Ben Watson finishes a top 5 tight end, he probably won't. That's probably on the very low end of his range of outcomes. But the case that everyone's making for a lot of these Browns players. Now, the one case that I don't hear all that much is, what if their defense is just really good and they run the ball a lot?
And that's a decent problem.
And then all of the volume just shrinks for everyone. That's sort of what happened with the Saints offense last year. Their defense got better. They ran the ball more. But you have Cameron Meredith there now to go along with Michael Thomas. Ginn's going to be a deep threat. Why can't Ben Watson catch 10 touchdowns?
Mostly because Michael Thomas is that slot flanker role.
But you're going to have the secondary coverage on Watson. He's going to be standing there. He's very savvy, Ben Watson, by the way.
My point being is it's not anything against Ben Watson. I can
Sounds
see.
like you hate Ben Watson.
Oh, yeah, he's the worst.
He's like 39 years old.
Actually, I'm a big fan of his. Especially, I like it. He does a lot of social media too.
He's the smartest man in football. Highest
Exactly.
one-look scorer in the NFL.
I can see 7. You throw out 10. 10's a hell of a lot for me for a tight end. That's my biggest issue. So 7. But your point being, to go back to it, is if I miss out on the top 6 or 7 tight ends.
Is Jimmy Graham inside that number? Because I don't think he is.
He is.
He's not.
By default because he's going to catch 7.
I'd rather have Delaney Walker.
And I would too. But the point is, so non-PPR, Jimmy Graham is a top 7 tight end. PPR, I'm staying away from. He's more like 9 or 10.
I just don't want him in either.
I understand that, but the touchdowns are going to be there.
Okay, put it this way. If they're not, he's going to score 0 points a week.
Well, yeah, I have 600 yards. So the difference between him and Ben Watson is not actually that big. To go back to what my point was going to be is if you miss out on one of those tight ends, just wait, take a Watson and Austin Seferian-Jenkins, Ricky Seals-Jones, just pair up all those guys at the end of the drafts, one of them hits, and you're golden.
All right, so there was no one else really injury-wise to talk about. DJ Moore actually looked good for the Panthers, 4 for 75. Only one of those passes came from Cam, though. When we try to break down that situation, I have Funchess in my home keeper league. I was very excited to get him. I traded Tariq Cohen to Cust for him last year. So it's just he's been the back end of the draft. I was hoping for big things. Then they go and they draft a receiver. It's just a situation where if the defense is okay, maybe they don't throw as much. Then Torrey Smith comes in. Greg Olson's going to be back. Are any of these guys going to be any good besides Olson?
No, I don't know that Olson's going to be any good.
I think Olson will be fine.
Olson slammed into the wall last year.
He also broke his foot, then tried to come back.
But he didn't look good before or after. Either way,
I'd be more willing to give the benefit of the doubt to Greg Olson than someone like Jimmy Graham.
And I don't have a problem with that. But I also have 0 shares of Greg Olson because he's also going.
Yeah, he also looks like Dexter and might come serial kill you, pal.
But he had 1 foot into the announcing booth. When you're taking it that seriously,
one of them was broken.
Exactly. So there you go. When it comes to Greg Olson, that's my concern. But Greg Olson also carries over to DJ Moore because DJ Moore, they've been looking for their new Steve Smith. We finally found our new Steve Smith.
Yeah, no one's ever going to find a Steve Smith again.
No, because he's the greatest wide receiver in history. It's just what the truth is. Because the talking. There's nothing to do with the skill set.
Skill set's pretty good.
It is.
Is he a Hall of Famer, Steve Smith?
I think so.
I think he might be.
He's top 10 in receptions, I think.
It's hard for these receivers to get in, though, because there's so many good ones.
Well, because Terrell Owens had to wait.
Yeah, Terrell Owens had to wait. Steve Smith probably has to wait.
One of the top 3 of all time had to wait. So my concern with DJ Moore is Christian McCaffrey's going to see his 100 targets. Greg Olson's back. Even if he's not 100%, he's going to see probably around 100 targets.
Curtis Samuel's still around for gadget plays.
Yeah, I'm not worried.
But that just even if it's 3% of the offense, it's 3% of the offense.
Well, no, I'm doing some math.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. It's less to take away. I'm adding on.
Okay, yeah. So Funchess is going to see around his 100. That's 300 targets. How many times is Cam Newton passing in the season? He's not hitting 500. So, you just go down to the math of it, and you talk about the C.J. Andersons and the Curtis Samuels and all that type of stuff. Is how many targets is DJ Moore going to have? If it's 80. Okay, he'll be a fine wide receiver 5, but I guarantee you after last night, he's going as a wide receiver 3.
And Funchess probably ends up going down. What's a projection for Funchess?
I'd say I could go look at my projections.
Is he a wide receiver 3?
I don't have my projections with me. You can ask me that question.
But is he a wide receiver 3, let's say?
In non-PPR. In PPR, no.
In PPR, no? He's just not going to get
wide receiver 4.
volume?
Yeah.
That sucks.
I think
playing in a PPR.
Off the top of my head, I think he's in the mid-60 catch range, around 800-900 yards, and about 6-7 touchdowns.
Funchess or Robbie Anderson?
I'll take Funches for safety, Robbie Anderson.
I think I would just take Robbie Anderson and hope it works out.
But it depends on your roster makeup, obviously.
Yeah, but I think I'd just be trying to roll the dice for upside there. Like, either Robbie Anderson's going to be really good or really bad, and you're going to know. With Funches, I can just see him being like, oh, he's 4 for 70 this week. Hopefully he catches a touchdown.
People get bored with consistency. It's the same reason that Matthew Stafford and Philip Rivers fall every year.
When I say that about Funches, I mean, like, that could just be his good weeks.
Oh,
and then he'll have like 3 for 39. With Robbie Anderson, it's like, oh, it's 7 for 141 and 2 touchdowns. Like, and then he'll just score touchdowns every week, and then just have 0 and like be out of football. So it's gonna be something that's really weird. That's a spot when I get into the draft, like that 8th, 9th round, when I'm still looking for more receivers. There are guys I like for sure, but those are just 2 names that consistently pop up. Be like, I think I'll take Robbie Anderson instead.
I don't have a problem with that.
Last guy before we start, we get you out of here. You can go hit the town. We get to golf, start talking. So I don't hear anyone talking about him. I haven't talked about him. And I looked at my rankings when I did the update, and you can find those right now on dkplaybook.com, completely updated. But LaShawn McCoy, I don't know what to do with him. I kind of want to take him because I don't think anyone wants him.
No, and I'm taking him at the
He's a good value now.
The 2-3 turn. But I was taking him before that news because people still didn't want him because people are making all the excuses of there's nobody else on this team. He's going to see 8-man stack boxes.
Old.
So one of the things, Emory Hunt, great former running back, one of the things he actually wrote this past week, he said, running backs love 8-man fronts because all they have to do is make one person miss, and then they're gone. Because the 8-man front thing is overrated. First of all, I think Leonard Fournette saw the most 8-man fronts last year. Leonard Fournette, because the volume, still finished as a top 7-8 running back in any format you chose. So LaShawn McCoy is their offense. Where else are they going? He's also their offense in the passing game. Where else are they going? I don't care if he only averages 3.4 yards per carry this season. He's going to have so many touches that he's going to be in that RB1 conversation again.
McCoy or Jarek?
McCoy.
McCoy or McCaffrey?
McCoy.
McCoy or Freeman?
McCoy.
McCoy or Chris Thompson, who's like a top 10 running back?
McCoy.
All right.
The only issue,
Shady's an undervalued guy then?
100%. The only issue is if he gets suspended.
I don't think he's going to.
No. And what's up with Martavis Bryant?
I have no idea.
Besides not knowing how to read a playbook from 1998.
Yeah, he just might not be good on that team either way, whether he plays or not.
He doesn't know how to read, as you said.
Yeah, that's tough. You got to figure that part out before you go in. Anyway, Jake Seeley, All In Kid, big announcement Monday from you.
Yes.
So you got to be following you on Twitter and Instagram for that.
You do. You definitely have to.
And then Flex Leagues, where's it going to be broadcast tomorrow afternoon?
Sirius XM will be tweeting out the links. All In Kid, Flex_Leagues will be tweeting out the links, so it'll be all there. The 3 to 5 will be live.
Oh, it'll be live.
Yep.
So that ends at 5. Guess what starts at 5?
What?
The Pat Mayo Experience live from the DraftKings Fantasy Baseball World Championships. I'll be there getting you right up to lock. We'll be talking to a lot of the players. We'll be talking to some analysts to get you set for the slate. But there's a showdown slate going on tonight, and plus a giant MLB slate. And Adam Kaufman is out at Yankee Stadium right now. Kauf, you're still in front of a green screen, I see.
Yeah, we just decided to change the angle a little bit so you can see just a little bit more of the field in a totally different space. I'm faking it. I'm in a really well air-conditioned studio just like you, just down the hall. It's no big deal. We just like to pretend a little bit. It's fine. It's fun.
All right, so what have you been seeing other than, oh, there goes Jake, so you can wave bye to Jake. What are you seeing out there that the fantasy players for tonight should be looking for? Like when you were watching batting practice, where you're like, oh, the ball is flying off his bat.
Well, I'll tell you what, even more interesting than batting practice notes, I think, are the lineup notes. Some of the things to keep an eye on, especially if you're, we know if you pay attention to fantasy, whether it's showdown, whether it's a regular slate, you're going to pay attention to this Yankees lineup because it's one of the best lineups in Major League Baseball, and it's a great lineup to stack. Some of that's written today on the DK Playbook, and it really highlights which guys you want to think about. It's not just the standard guys like Giancarlo Stanton, for instance, who has homers in 3 straight games. Could he go for 4 tonight? It's a great matchup against Mike Minor. I'm Mr. BVP. Anyone who knows me knows that, and this is a great matchup for him in that respect because he has 4 lifetime home runs against Minor, but it's more than that, Mayo, when it comes to the Yanks. If you want to fit Stanton in, if you want to fit, say, Aaron Hicks in, Luke Voigt is in the lineup tonight. Now, if he's not a well-known player to you, you're forgiven. Only his parents know him particularly well. He's not the best player in the world. He doesn't play that much. He hasn't played that much, and to call him not the best is probably one of the nicest things anyone could say about him. But he is in a good spot. He's in a good position in this lineup, in a stacked lineup, in, again, a favorable matchup for these hitters, and he could be a really good showdown play. He's at $5,100, something you should really think about, especially if you're looking for value so you can fit other guys like Stanton and Hicks in that lineup. And then if you want to go really crazy, you can explore some of the other great options that exist for New York. But on the Texas side, you've got Rougned Odor, who is just, this is a guy who was hitting 217 back in the middle of June. Since then, in I think about 40 games, he's hitting 325, 13 home runs. He has been ridiculously hot of late. Over his last 8 games, he's hitting 333, but he's got 8 extra base hits, he's got 4 homers, he's driven in 13. The BABIP is poor, which should tell you he's been even that much better because he's not just relying on putting balls in play. The DK fantasy points in total, I think it's about 130 over these 8 games, so he's doing great. His double play partner out there in the middle of the infield is Jurickson Profar. He is another guy who's just been tearing it up over the last 10 games or so, and these guys are going to be relied upon that much more because you don't have Joey Gallo, you don't have Robinson Chirinos. Gallo in particular, Shin-Soo Choo is going to fill in for him, but Gallo being out of this lineup against Masahiro Tanaka, who is just a great matchup, a guy who typically gives up home runs, to sit Gallo in the lefty-righty matchup for, we don't know exactly what reason right now, but it seems like, based on what everybody's saying, is rest. It's curious. It's a head scratcher, but there are some opportunities here on both sides.
All right, Koff, we'll be coming back to you a little bit later on as we get settled and really sit down with the baseball guests like Garion, Alex, and Steve to break down the showdown slate and the full slate. So we'll see you then. Enjoy your time out there at Yankee Stadium, Kauffman. But now, as we transition back to golf, we were going to do a live cut sweat show, but the problem is it's got rained out. Rain, too, suspended due to inclement weather. But we do have Russell Whalen, the NYC punter, in studio, live and in person. You're a real person.
I am here. I do exist.
So this sucks. Like it's being rained out.
We'll finally get you here to New York, and we're going to do something live together, and then the rain gets in the way.
So right now the cut is being projected at even. Like it's the T75 is +1, and it's going to be difficult. Well, I guess it depends on how the course plays when they come back out. I would think soggier means easier.
And that's what I was monitoring the Twitters, and Feinberg was saying, like, the guys actually, when they come back after the rain, they're going to experience those softer conditions. And we saw them really go low and take advantage of that yesterday morning. So you got to figure that the guys who have, like, let's say the back 9 to go, they're going to have some chance to throw some darts in there. This place is exploitable. So what I was monitoring was people were trying to get their live bets going, or see what they could pick up as we experience this delay. There might be some opportunities there, but it's definitely going to factor into your weekend slate, your showdown slate. People are going to have to really consider, and we may not even get going. This system is coming through and it's sticking around.
Let's check it out. Did you see it's going to last like overnight?
Yeah, well, I was letting guys know that I was waiting to come on, and I said, "What's going on? I'm here for a live sweat show, and do you think we're going to actually get back?" And I heard a little bit of pessimism about it, so. I'm hoping we can get back going, and it's obviously for so many reasons it's better to get the second round completed so we can just dive into a weekend as a normal weekend. But I don't know, man. It was a bit of a deluge when I was sitting in the waiting room, so I don't know. I'm hopeful.
So we can just watch Patrick Reed miss the cut here again. I already went through it once. My teams are so bad this week. Like Casey ejects, Stenson everyone's going low. Stenson, not Henrik Stenson, Bubba. I would bet it again at 60. Like, he should not be 60 in this type of tournament when the guys who are at the top of the leaderboard are basically the same skill set as Bubba, aren't they? Like, Woodland's at the top of the leaderboard. You're telling me at a course where Woodland can be in first place after 2 rounds that Bubba shouldn't be up there?
Yeah, well, I kind of tailed you on that one, and It
happens. I've given out Bubba 4 times this year. He's missed the cut twice and won twice. We're doing okay with Bubba.
We're doing all right, but it's the Masters where he kind of dropped the ball, shall we say. But it's the majors, rather, that he kind of ejected himself. He was actually hanging in there quite well, and I did tail you on that one, but I must say, there was a little bit of a narrative about his shot shape and the way the course set up with the left to right or whatever it is, but that did not play out, did it?
No, the thing is, I would say, have you been watching the coverage? I know that can't be the case because there was no coverage. Like, what? It's so ludicrous.
I have to say, I mean, we watch a lot of golf.
Yeah, well, we try to.
We try to. And that would be putting it as an understatement that we watch a lot of golf. But when you get into a situation like this, it's just been really upsetting and frustrating about how they chose to handle it. And I was tweeting a little bit about it, and some guy came back to me and said, well, it's the same as the Masters. But I said, no, it's not. I mean, the Augusta does it so much better.
Yeah.
They not only give you the 2 featured groups, they give you Amen Corner.
They give you 15 and 16. And I mean, they give you one on the front, too.
And that allows you to be just exposed to so many more golfers. Just giving me 2 featured groups, that just doesn't cut it.
And I get, like, when you have, like, a super group, like they have, like, with Tiger, with Rory, and Justin Thomas. Yeah, those are the guys that people are going to want to see.
Right.
But it also sucks at the same time, because if you offer that as a feature group and the main coverage is on, those are the only guys they're showing on the main coverage anyway. So what's the difference?
It's a double whammy, especially for, we're here to talk about fantasy and potentially some other stuff.
Oh, we'll talk about some bets.
Yeah, I mean...
Legal now, sir. Get them in.
And that's what we do, and that's why, that's the energy that we have around us. And to only be able to watch 3 guys, and then, like you said, it's that double whammy of, you tune into the coverage and you get the same 3 dudes. And God forbid it's Phil or Tiger or whatever. I mean, that's all you see. And they don't understand that we want to see the Luke Lists of the world.
Well, I really want to track Rafa Cabrera-Bello this afternoon, because he was one of my, the one thing that could be my saving grace this week were my 2 last ads to the betting sheet, Woodland and Rafa Cabrera-Bello. So if one of those guys can, get high, if Woodland wins, it's going to be fantastic. He's, one of my only bets who made the cut. So he needs to win. Or just come inside the top 8. If they can both come inside the top 8, it's going to be a very handsome week. But Rafa Cabrera-Bello, I just want to say, it's one thing to look at the stats, which is great. I'm just on Fantasy National, following along with everything while it's going live, and be like, oh, are they gaining strokes through approach? And sometimes you can see those numbers, but if you're not watching them, Finau made 7 birdies on the first 8 holes, and they didn't show one on TV. Why? I don't get it.
And this is a major, and we get so amped up for this. We spend weeks talking about it. We spend weeks building lineups. We're digging through Fantasy National, getting as many stats as we can, and the culmination of it is what? I got to watch it through the leaderboard?
Yeah, I mean, stats are one thing. Stats are great. They're predictive. They can help you. They can influence your decisions. But I do want some context for them, too. I want to see where they're, if it's, hey, if Gary Woodland gained, or Brooks today, gained 3.5 strokes through approach, I want to see how close he's really hitting it. Or if he's combining the approach with the putting. Is he hitting it to 9 feet and making all his 9-footers, or is he sticking it to 1 foot every single time? I don't know, because it wasn't on TV.
It's been terrible. And for our friends in the UK, a lot of the guys in the community, they've been having their own hassle as well.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Oh, man.
So I used to try to get into a Sky Sports feed. That's how I had to watch when I won at Heritage this year. I had to get the Sky Sports feed because it just wasn't on Golf Channel.
Ben and Steve, my guy Steve, they've just been saying nonstop how crappy it is, and I'm like, it's no better over here. It's not. You wouldn't be helped if you were in the States.
How are your Millie teams doing?
I mean,
good or bad? Do you have Woodland? Because I have a bunch of Woodland. I also have a bunch of Stenson and Casey and Bubba.
Yeah, I mean, I would say my Millie teams are doing about as good as they're usually doing at this point.
So not well.
You got a couple that are peeking into the money, and I'm a little bit spread out. My problem is I've got to sweat Rory a little bit. I
don't think we need to sweat Rory because if Rory makes the cut. And Dustin, I actually will have a few 6-6 teams because of those 2 guys. Because all the teams that I built with them didn't have the Bubbas and didn't have the Stensons or Reeds
thankfully.
or Caseys. Yeah, that's just the random way it worked out.
Yeah.
So if those guys get through, Nick Watney charged back and made the cut. I was like,
I saw
here
that,
we go.
And I was thinking of you. I was like, oh my God, how did that happen?
I did not, because I have Sergio at +1, he's done. List at +1, he's done. There was someone else at +1.
Stanley's at +1.
I didn't have any Stanley. I went off of Stanley, but they're all right there, and they're finished. It's not going to get. It's very unlikely for it to get to +1, unless the rain screws up the course and it's super hard when they come out. Then it is in play.
Well, and there's something to that, because what somebody was saying about what the rain really did was it thickened the rough into an absolute quagmire, so that if you did get a little off track, you weren't popping it back at, you weren't really getting anything out of the rough when it really bogs down and gets moist like that. So, I can see some guys really moving forward. I don't know if we're going to ship that cut though, Pat.
Nah, I mean it takes 5 guys right now to ship the cut. So the guys on the course at even, I'm still sweating DeChambeau. He's still out there, but I would like for him to get through. I hope he's not. Put it this way, I'll have him drop back to +1 if that means all the other +1s get in. I'm fine with that. So we also have Chappie, Watney, Potter, Otagi. Is that
Otagwe.
Otagwe?
I think. Adrian?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Otagwe, I've heard a lot of different things. You never know.
So a lot of the Euros, we didn't see a Finau shot, but I think it's Ben Kern, the PGA pro. Got a lot of him in his stupid bucket hat. They showed like 8 of his shots. He made a birdie on 18 to make the cut. The guys on the course: DeChambeau, Rory, Moore, Mikko Korninen, who I actually like for Showdown today. But those are the 5 guys.
Well,
That's it.
But then you say, like, you don't think we have to sweat Rory. I mean, he's sitting right there at even.
Rory's fine.
I mean, Rory, he'll be fine. But, I mean, if I have some exposure to him, and I don't want to see him sitting right there, you know?
Yeah.
Talk about a sweat.
But isn't this exactly what you would want for Rory, though? Him being on the course when it starts to pour rain, and now he gets to come out in soft. Like, if Rory's going to make a move, what are his live odds right now?
Well, so,
I can't bet from my books here. I have to go to New Jersey and go to the DraftKings.
Yeah, I
sportsbook.
scrolled down a little bit before I came on, and the crazy thing about it is the bookies will never make Rory something insane.
They know.
Yeah, I mean, like I got Brooks on side last night at like 25, a bunch of Brooks, and he's 6 now. So what I did was I tweeted out last night to whoever wanted to listen that I really thought it'd be wise to jump in tonight on guys that got the early start today.
Rory's 50. And he's on hole 10, I believe?
I mean, so, you know, I get a little warm and fuzzy anytime I hear, like, Rory 50. You know, and I wanted to talk to you about this. Like, I legit think that anybody who makes the cut might have a chance to win this thing.
Well, the low round is there.
I just think, especially with, and sorry, like I know like Feinberg will be out there cursing me and probably yourself as well, but I mean, Gary Woodland at the top, I mean, the top is a little shaky.
But Dustin's up there, Ricky's around, Brooks is there.
No, that's true. But I'm just saying, like, I'm willing, you know, they don't call me the NYC punter for nothing. I mean, I'm willing to have a punt on just about anybody that gets through the cut. Because I think, and we've seen this so many times, first of all, Saturday's moving day, right? So Saturday, somebody's going to go out there and pop a low one and instantly move themselves into contention. And then you get the Sunday round where the guys who tend to come out early and just have that carefree chaser mentality, we just so many times we see them put themselves in a position where they put the pressure on the guys who are leading. And rather, you know, they want to be gunning at pins, they want to be attacking, and I tend to kind of like to be on that side of it than be, you know, how many times have we seen the leader just crap, you know, the bed this year? So, you know, there's a lot of, I think tonight there'll be a lot of opportunities to get some action.
Per Data Golf, too, the 2 highest win probabilities, both 14% right now. Dustin Johnson and Ricky Fowler both have the best potential to win. Woodland is actually next after that at 12.3, then Brooks and Kisner, then Jason Day, Molinari, and Tiger Woods after that.
I tend to wonder how much like popularity might skew something like that.
But I mean, in the Data Golf, it won't. It will factor in some long-term form, and that will benefit Tiger.
Well, I mean, so Tiger, I think Tiger's at -3 right now.
Is that he got to 3?
Well, yeah, on the way in,
Oh, yeah.
I think he's got 3, and he was in some trouble when last I saw him, but I guess he got out of that. Is he through 7?
He's through 7. He's on
Yeah.
8.
Okay.
He's on his second shot on a par 5.
Yeah, so Tiger is going to be that. He's going to. I'm not going to say suffer, but he's going to be awarded that same sort of Rory privilege where. Yeah. They'll think that he can come back from anything to win it.
Well, his odds might even be shorter than Rory's.
Exactly.
I mean, they should be because he's at -3, not even. But yeah, Tiger's 25-1.
Yeah, Tiger's 25. I mean, no thanks, but you know, I mean, when we saw what he did at Carnoustie, where he was like right in it after the front 9, and I'm just sitting there saying like, wow, like did I totally miss the boat on Tiger? But you know, we saw him struggle a little bit after that, and I could sort of see that being the case, especially if this thing lengthens up and, you know.
Well, if it gets wet, it will.
If it gets wet, it's gonna play a lot longer. And I mean, I got to be honest, and everybody out here who knows me, which is like all of my 4,000 followers, but thanks to you. But everybody knows I love Brooks. And man, I heard his post-round interview, and he just said like the course doesn't suit my eye and the shape of it. People didn't think that I would play well, but he says I hit it so long that I was going over the dog leg. And, you know, he was like, I don't care.
Rahm's been doing the same thing.
Yeah, but Brooks has been doing it better. So, I mean, honestly, what did you say it was? Brooks is 6 right now.
6 to 1, yeah.
I mean, that's you know, I don't go for short odds.
I don't. I've been really trying to. Just as we talked, someone must be watching this, hearing you talk about Brooks. He's now plus 550.
I moved the line, right?
You're a line mover. Not even betting on it, you're a line mover at this point.
I mean, 25-1 was last night, and I just jumped all over it because I knew that the guys coming out early this morning were going to have the good run at it. And not only that, the temperatures went ballistic. Right before the rain came, the humidity just went insane. So if you think about it, those guys who had to come out late, they were sweltering out there. I give Ricky credit. He's 2 under, right, and at 7. But, you know, if you see most of the leaderboard is in the house, and I don't see a lot of the guys, unless it does play a lot easier when they come back out, I don't see a lot of the guys from the bottom like moving up right now.
Well, the guys that are on the course that could have a shot to go like post a number by the end of the second round and then be out later, obviously with the presumably worse tee time on Saturday, but could be in first place for all we know. Ricky's on 10, he's -7. Billy Ho, who's been, I actually have a little piece of Billy Ho.
Oh, he's from pre-tourney or
from pre-tourney?
Because I saw our buddy JP, Josh Perry, put him up at 150-1 last night, in between somewhere. So I was like, wow, that's so good.
And he's on those like Dustin Rory lineups that I got going too.
Okay.
So I really liked the way that he was playing. He putted so poorly yesterday, and now that's coming around a little bit. But he's on 10, or he's through. Played the back 9, he's through 1, he's on number 2 right now. So he has 8 holes left, he's at -5.
Now wait, one thing, not to interrupt that because we should run through that, but now do you see the front 9 or the back 9 as the easier?
I don't know, to tell you the truth.
I think they were saying the back 9 was playing easier. So I think that should factor into people's minds as well.
I can
because
go
if Billy
that
Ho
up.
went -3 on the back and now he's got to do the front, you know, there might be a little bit of some congestion there.
That's actually a very, very good point. So I will look that up on Data Golf to see what's going in, the weekly live predictive model. But the other guys that are out there right now, okay, so Pat Perez is -5, and he's playing the back. He has the full back 9 left.
Now he has the not, yeah, okay.
And then we have Shane Lowry and Yuta Akita, who was my showdown play of the day. He was like last in putting. You
got to think for these Japanese players. I mean, you hit Satoshi.
Daira, yeah.
Unbelievable. At Heritage, what a play.
So, yeah, sometimes these guys come through. That was all. I'm still kicking myself for not betting Justin Thomas last week when I initially saw the number, because I knew the number was wrong. And the reason that I ended up on him is because the number was wrong. I've never seen this guy play before, but that number is wrong. He's the 31st player in the world, and he has the same odds as, I don't know, some guy who's worse than Jason Kokrak.
Now wait, did you actually see the 30? Because I never saw the 30.
I tweeted out the 30.
You tweeted out.
I took a screenshot. I was on vacation though, and I was just like, I don't want to get into this right now.
I think like same for me. It was like a week off kind of thing. But I mean, I will jump off the beach to get a 30-1 JT. But by the time I saw it, it was 20.
Jason Day has the full back 9 left. Stuart Sink is only on hole 6. He's at -4.
Where's J Day at?
J Day in terms of odds?
No, is he at -4 right now?
Yeah, he's at -4. He's still 16-1.
I don't know.
I've liked how he's been in yesterday's round. He was like field average putting, but he was striking. He was top 3 in ball striking, which is very atypical of how he's been playing. So if his putter normalizes to what it normally is, and he can keep up this ball striking, like it's probably going to be him and Brooks at the end, or Gary Woodland.
Now wait, did he play the front or the back? Did he go off the front or the back?
He went off the front, so he has number 9 in the whole back.
The back, left. Yeah. Now something interesting to talk about with J Day, because there was some speculation about why he missed the Champions Dinner, and he came clean about that.
You know why he missed it? Because he didn't want to hang out with Phil.
Well, it could have been any one of his numerous ailments, but he did claim that he had a cold. So I mean, I don't know how that factors in. I don't know how he's feeling. We never know how he's feeling. I'm not so much of a J Day guy. I might look elsewhere. Somebody was saying Hideki's 50-1, and he's at what, -3.
Hideki's 50?
I think so.
Yeah, he is. He is 50-1.
So Hideki's 50. I mean, we don't usually talk too much about Hideki.
He's having a bad year. You know, he hadn't had a top 5 since the swing season. He hurt the wrist and he never got it back.
I put a boatload on him at Phoenix because he owns Phoenix.
And then
right?
he withdrew at Phoenix.
And then he withdrew, and oh man, I took so much garbage for that.
It happens. Like anyone who Ulrich came on the show this week and said Louis the play. It happens. What are you gonna do?
At the fantasy grind, but I mean, it's amazing how it happens, and I think you and Feinberg were talking about on the show this week because he was moaning about how somebody did a show and didn't really make any picks. And like you said, which I totally tuned into, was making golf picks is it's not a great business to be in sometimes. Or nobody wants to do it because a lot of them are losers.
Well, I even saw Josh Perry posted he tracks all of his bets and he posts his record. I believe his record in golf bets this year, like just picking like outrights and top 10s and everything. I think it's 2-70 or something. But his ROI is like up 80 units because it's golf. Like you hit the one and you're good.
That's it. When we hit, we hit.
Yeah.
We spend a lot of time investing, and eventually we hope to pull that return out. You got to stick around for the win, and you will have those.
That's why I'm
rough
still
times.
betting Luke List, and I'm still betting Siwoo Kim. Although nothing was more surprising, to me. It was shocking to find out that Luke List 3-putted from 10 feet to miss the cut. Stanley's was worse, though. I will say Stanley's was way worse.
Please, painful to me. I mean, you get that moment of excitement when he's charging up the board and then he's gone. But I thought you were going to DM me to be like, don't come in for the Cut Sweat show. It's over because Luke List is out. So I thought you were just going to cancel.
I listen, +1 right now, 0.25% chance of happening.
Oh.
Less than 1%. Crazier things have happened.
Well, yeah, and we've bet on crazier outcomes.
The will it win was probably less than that at one point on Sunday.
Whew, it was until Cust got involved.
Listen, we need Cust to say it could never go to +1, and then all of a sudden, like I got like 80% 6-6 lineups back.
We're back in it.
So it looks like the front is actually playing easier.
Is it now?
Yeah, -0.2 on the front,
All right.
-0.11 on the back.
Well, that's interesting because I guess I heard the commentators saying that they thought it was that the scoreable holes were on the back. But
is it shocking to you that the commentators are not using real data? They're just saying things.
They're just saying things. Not only that, and I don't want to call Ernie out, but I think like
Big Ern.
He was saying like yesterday how he thought the cut was going to be like +2, +3. Like in his mind, he didn't understand that it wasn't going to get harder. It was only going to get easier. So, I thought he was maybe giving out bad info to the public.
Well, there you go. For the showdown slate for tomorrow and even the weekend golf on DraftKings, would you, especially for like Saturday showdown, would you be targeting the guys going out early?
So
and praying that they get the good conditions.
It's just tricky as of now because we don't even know where the rounds are going to finish. I mean, having done this as long as I do, I always pray for the rounds to work out right with timing. Nobody wants to have like half the field going out
and
early.
then it push like even for weekend golf. If the start time doesn't get pushed, I can go look it up if it has right now because we don't know if we're going to get it in. But if it doesn't get pushed, there's a weird contrarian play that you could do and be like, well, no one's going to take Rory because he might miss the cut. Then you take Rory, you get Rory at like 2%.
Yeah, but
or is that just too risky?
Well. But wouldn't you know all those things
because we don't know when the round is going to start or come to its conclusion.
Right.
So it's going to be really difficult to make an actual lock time because it's going to be instantaneous.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like as soon as that one round ends, they're back on the course again.
It kind of reminds me of the Masters when DJ fell down the stairs, and you had that like you had to make that gamble. Like, wait, do I want to load DJ?
Same as Finau this year.
Exactly. And I think I did take some DJ lineups that year because I was like, you know what? If he comes in and does anything, he's going to be so low owned that I'm going to be way ahead of the field. So I do like taking that gamble every once in a while.
It's funny, that year, 2 years ago, when we didn't know about DJ and he ended up withdrawing after lock, so there's nothing you can really do. And there's no alternates for the Masters either. So everyone's argument about that by just replacing him with the alternate wouldn't even have worked. He just would have gotten a 0.
Yeah.
But he was like 7.5% owned. Finau this year was like 1%. I think it's because we saw a video of him breaking his ankle and people were like,
popping
nope.
it back into place himself. But don't even get me started about that because I instantly, thinking like I know what I'm doing sometimes. Like I'm like, oh, I'm pounding against
That is
Finau
the biggest mistake you can make.
All the matchups, as you well know, Pat. But I was like, oh, Finau's not going to be able to go through 4 days at Augusta on a busted ankle. So I'm pounding any matchup I could find. I'm taking the other guy. And he wiped me out. He won because he finished what? Like he finished.
Fifth.
I mean, I have a newfound whatever. It was a T10.
Yeah.
And he destroyed. I think I had him against Grace. I had him against Rafa. I mean, he wiped them all out. And I'm sitting there saying to myself, I'm never doing that again. And I have to say, I had a newfound respect for Tony after that.
He's played really well this year. And if he makes the cut this week after the start that he had, I mean, everyone on DraftKings is going to be super fired up because he's like 40% owned somehow. I did not, because people were yelling at me. It's like, you said he'd be chalk, but you never said he'd be 40%. It's like, well, I didn't think he was going to be. Did anyone think he was going to be 40% owned? Really?
Well, he was super. Well, the price wasn't right either. So
the price wasn't, but like even the guys around him, like people liked Bryson there. People used Bubba. People used Casey. People used Cantlay. Like they were all there.
Well, it was a consequence of Tony's. He's been T10 in every major so far.
I completely
so that narrative
get it.
It goes on its own.
But 40% of people, 4 of 10 people, 2 of 5 people entered the Millionaire Maker and picked Tony Finau on their team.
And it's caused quite a stir because it's like The guys who aren't on him are like, please die. And you know,
And then he did, but now he's back. He has risen again.
And he's teetering, right? So where is he right now? Because he had 6 birdies on the front, but he also had he had a triple and a bogey as well.
Finau is currently inside the cut line at even par.
He's at even. So yeah,
on hole 11.
Guys were joking with me when I said I was coming on for the Cut Sweat show. They said, why don't you just call it the Finau show, you know, because we would have been seeing a lot of him.
There's a lot of guys right there. Like, Moore's not, like, unowned. Rory's there. Bryson's there. Finau's there. I mean, if anyone played Ben Kern, good on you. He's there. But Ollie's going backwards now, so I know all Jeff's lineups are probably done if he misses the cut.
That's going to be an interesting one to watch because I'm sure people were like really psyched when Ollie was moving up, but now he's doing that little backslide thing.
Like he did last weekend at Barracuda. He was winning. And then, oh yeah, of course Ollie didn't make a move on Saturday. Classic Ollie.
It's like, I think we got to start getting a book going of guys who like make one-day moves, like who are really good.
Showdown players.
Just showdown.
Play them showdown on every slate.
And like maybe like put that as a filter into Fantasy National. Like seriously, like who are the guys who only flash for one day and then basically, because it's like, and that's the thing that drives me crazy.
Poulter's doing this now too. He's turning into the new Charlie Hoffman at majors. He's there. Like first day showdown slates at every majors.
Yeah.
People used to play Charlie Hoffman every time. Play Poulter. He's always in the mix day one.
Now it's Poulter. Now where is he?
Yeah, I think he missed the cut.
Oh wow. After starting, like he was like way up.
No, he's at minus. He's 1 over for the day at -2, so he's still good with 9 holes to go.
Yeah, you know, so he was he was early late. Yeah, so he's still got a 9 to go. But I could see him, you know, causing some pain. Well, do you know what his ownership was?
Yeah, it was around like 13%, I think.
Yeah, he's a guy I tend to not get right.
Killed me at the British Open. Then he killed me last week when he melted on Sunday. Whew. So Justin Thomas on the course, Sharma on the course. No one owns Sharma. Webb Simpson, Grace is on the course. Grace is like 0.9% owned.
You know, I tried to get you for the Carnoustie show to talk about Grace because there was such a long time where every major,
I just have no feel for him.
But every major you were a Grace guy, and I think he just like he was like now he's persona non grata. Like he wore out his welcome. I think with you.
I just need to see him do something.
Yeah.
It's even middling it's not even bad, but middling. Like Cameron Smith has been bad since the Masters.
Yeah.
But like all of a sudden Grace has just got it back a little bit.
Yeah.
It's just weird.
But that's why, like, I think, like, guys like you and me stopped talking about him, and that's why his ownership just dwindled to such an extent that, like, he's not owned.
I suppose that's true. So the other guys on the course, Brian Gay's on the course, Ross Fisher's only through 4 holes. I like Ross Fisher to still make a move here. He hit 18 to 18 greens yesterday. He was top 4 in ball striking and almost dead last in putting.
I mean, I had a thing with him when he was actually killing the European Tour. Like a couple of years back, or I don't even know exactly what year it was, but he was winning extensively. I mean, he's a top-notch player when his game comes together.
He was hurt, too, earlier in the year. And now, like 3 months, 4 months have passed, and he's started to string together a few quality results.
He's playing well. He's playing well. He's popping in the stats, but it's a guy that it just doesn't move the needle for me. Now, you know who's another guy everyone's going to be keeping an eye on is Xander.
Yeah, Xander, right. Well, the odds, the books are savvy to what Xander can do. He's like Ross Fisher and Xander are both at -2.
Yep.
Fisher has way more holes to play. But Xander is 66 to 1. Fisher's 250 to 1. Like, yeah, I know that Xander is a better player, but give me more holes with a guy who is 4 times the odds. Like, it's more than that. Like, one of those 2 numbers is wrong, is all I'm going to say. Either
my
Fisher's too high or Xander's too low.
You're right. They should probably each be 100, let's say. My issue with Ross is if he waded through the muck and he got to the top, he would fail when he got there. That would be my angle with him. But the thing about Xander, to talk about him, is he started off awfully, I believe. Like he was with
Finau.
He was I think he was like +4. And for him to, I don't know, that's just off the top of my head, but for him to now be back in the cut, I mean, he still has a chance that he could drop the ball and miss it, but, I mean, he's done a lot to battle back and get in there. So he could be somebody interesting to watch for the 3rd round showdown.
Xander, right now, I liked him for today because he was 4th in approach after yesterday, and he was awful off the tee and couldn't putt. But just he was sticking everything and missing all these birdie putts. Rory's doing the exact same thing, but it's what Rory does every single week.
Yeah, and
he's hitting it to 9 feet and missing every putt.
Yeah, what's going on with the putter? You know,
it's either he putts the lights out or he can't make a putt. That's what we've seen from him this year.
Well, and you know, going back to the conditions changing, Pat, like, you know what's going to be interesting is, like, first of all, these greens started off really slow, and a lot of guys were having trouble coming to grips with the putting thing. And then they played a round or 2 in dry conditions. Now they're going to come out after the rain. and they're going to have to reacclimate to the greens. That's going to be quite tricky, I think, to get the speed of the greens right and to be dying the ball in the hole properly. So I don't know. I mean, unless people are really sticking their approaches when they come back, I don't think the putting stats are going to be getting a ton better because they're going to have to readjust.
They will. So in terms of strokes gained putting, if you're playing weekend golf right now, here are the guys. I mean, Bo Hostler's not going to be there, but think about how poorly I played Bo Hostler too. He's number 1 in putting, and he's 4 over par. How is that possible?
Wait a minute. Are you telling me Gary Woodland's not number 1 in putting?
No, Gary Woodland's now 6th in putting. Finau is 2nd because Finau has made every putt. I think he's made every single putt today.
I mean, what Woodland's done with the putter is just the thing about it is, and you've got to bet on him. So I know it's
going the other way. I see it coming from a mile away.
It simply can't get any better.
I just need him 1 out of 150 times. I think he has a better chance to win than that right now. Is all I'll say. I think his win probability is higher than 2%.
I think
it might be 2.1%, but that's where I'm at.
Well, and you actually have the lovely luxury of like cash out stuff and things like that.
When you play it with the each way, you don't get the cash out option.
So that's how that works.
That's how that works.
That's how they rope you in. So you have to be on a straight win, outright win to get the cash out, and that makes sense.
It does make sense.
You know.
But if he comes inside the top 8, I'm good with it. And if Rafa can work his way up, I'm good with that too. Other guys, I just want to point out that the top's in approach right now. And obviously, the round's not finished, so some of it's going to be skewed towards the guys that are already done. Sure. Kisner, Fowler, Berger, who's -2 right now, maybe a weekend play. One of the dead last in putting, but 3rd in approach. Yuta Akita, Russell Henley, Brooks Koepka, JT, Woodland, Horschel, Schwartzel, Fisher, Peters, Kazire. Kazire's interesting. He's on the course right now. He's top 15 in approach. He's +2, but he's only on hole 4. So he's someone that on a showdown slate that I guess maybe in weekend golf that if you have to have lock in, you want to gamble a little bit. Kazire will be 0.00001% owned. And by the stats, it says that he should be playing better.
And
listen, both of his wins at par 70s.
But he's currently what?
+2.
He's +2, so we got to get him inside the cut before we
start. Yeah, but he's only through 4 holes.
Yeah.
By the numbers, he's one of the guys that should come up and make the cut.
He should, but since his 2 wins earlier in the beginning of the season or through the swing or whatever, he just lost it. Okay, I mean, he hasn't been good.
Last thing before we get out of here, guys that are currently inside the cut line and the worst putters in the field, Ross Fisher and Yuta Akita are the 2. -4 and -2, and they're both in the bottom 15 of putting.
Yeah.
Daniel Berger is down there as well. And the other one is Justin Thomas.
Yeah, no, for the showdown stuff, I always like to look at guys going out early. So if those guys get through and they manage to be out early in the morning and swinging carefree, that's where you get a lot of scoring.
Russell Whalen, thank you for being in the studio. Follow him on Twitter at NYC Punter. Was it everything it was cracked up to be?
Man, I thought I was going to be absolutely nervous, a sweaty mess, but no.
Now we're here chatting. We're talking golf.
We're kicking it.
We didn't even have golf to talk about, and we talked about golf.
Hey, listen, whoever bashes social media doesn't know what they're talking about because we've gotten to know each other and we've got a great community, and it's been all it was cracked up to be, man.
Yeah, at NYC Punter. So we'll bring on Gary, and we'll bring on Alex, and we'll bring on Steve in just a second. But first, we need to go back out to Yankee Stadium because Adam Kaufman is there. Kauf, what's the weather looking like? Is there anything you can see or at least feel down on your head that could affect the game?
I feel heat, Pat. I feel humidity. I'll tell you what, the weather is absolutely perfect if you like home runs. You remember the old commercial, Chicks Dig the Long Ball? I think we're going to see some more of those tonight. These two teams, last night the Yankees alone hit 5 home runs. It should be no surprise if we see something very similar to that tonight with these 2 pitchers on the mound, Mike Minor as well as Masahiro Tanaka. Both guys, they've each given up 19 home runs on the season, just a shade over 100 innings apiece. So they're prone to the long ball as it is. But this weather, okay, you watch batting practice, both teams, ball's absolutely soaring out of here. There's no wind at all. I don't know if you can see the flag out in left center field. It's not doing anything right now at all. I mean, literally the flag is still. It's not moving. It is humid. It is hot, as I mentioned. I would expect it to be a very comfortable night for the batters, maybe not so much for the pitchers on the mound.
Mike Minor, hardly newer. Is that someone you need to be stacking up against tonight? What do you think?
I think you have to. Yankees, no question, are one of the better stacks that you have available for you in fantasy tonight. And it's not just because they are one of the better lineups in all of Major League Baseball. You're always going to think about the Yankees, the Red Sox when you're thinking about a stack, and naturally you usually have to pay up to do so. But it's a fact. There are so many weapons on this team, whether it's Stanton, who's homered in 3 straight games, and BVP has owned Mike Minor in his career. You also obviously have some of the usual suspects, whether it's Gleyber Torres, who, by the way, is going to pop over at the FWBC as a guest of DraftKings and show his face a little bit during the World Championships tomorrow. But then you have Didi Gregorius, you have Andujar, you have Voit, who is not a big bat, but maybe a sneaky play in Showdown tonight. Some of the just guys that Hicks, other guys that you can think about with this lineup that are all apt to do something, especially with a guy like Mike Minor on the other side. His ERA, it's not good, it's 4.5, but the road-home splits, as you start to delve a little bit deeper, are that much more notable. His road ERA is 6.5, almost 7 this season. He's barely pitched in his career in this ballpark, only about 7 innings and 4 runs allowed. So this is a guy that just historically does not do so well in this situation, and I would think that's probably going to happen again tonight. The Yankees, it's kind of a no-brainer type of stack.
All right, Adam Kaufman, thanks for checking in with us from Yankee Stadium. I do want to let everyone know out there before we talk about this game tonight in the Showdown contest and the entire DraftKings MLB slate that tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Time to 7, I will be live from the Fantasy Baseball DraftKings World Championship. You can stream it live on Facebook, the DK Live app, and YouTube, or come buy a ticket. Come down, hang, watch it all live down there. Like Koff mentioned, there's going to be people lurking around, and you can come meet them. And now you can meet 3 people that I like very much. 1 is Alex Jankowski. 2 is Steve Buchanan. I don't like Gary and Thorne, but he's here too.
I have to be here. Contractually, I'm obligated to be on
and
your
you
show.
guys all made your picks last night. No one got fired, so we're looking all good here.
Ivanova did
Ivanova!
He came through.
He came through.
Kind of.
So we need to talk kind of.
Well, it's not so much that he came through, it's everyone else that didn't
came
come
through.
through.
When you paid for Ivanova, you got Mookie Betts, little cycle action.
All right, we got to talk about this Showdown slate because all the people that are in the Fantasy Baseball World Championships tomorrow night are playing for $100K tonight at the stadium. That I kind of wish I was. I mean, I wish I was in it anyway, so I could win big money. But this sounds like a lot of fun.
I assume they have a box, right?
Yeah, they'll be at the DraftKings box.
Yeah. That's a good way to live.
They're not going to let Kaufman in, are they? I wouldn't. That'd be like rule number 1. If you let Kaufman in, you lose.
No green screen.
Yeah, that will be the green screen.
You'd be like, I'm hanging out with all my friends here behind me.
You know he's got his
from behind here.
He's got his Red Sox gear in the backpack ready to go so he can try it. I just wish that the timing worked out. Bartolo Colon pitching tomorrow for the Rangers, not pitching tonight.
That's okay. That means we get to talk about him for the Fantasy Baseball World Championship.
Oh,
well,
Cologne action.
Yeah,
that's a big plus.
Yeah, but Mike Minor's
but
exactly, yeah, and Mike Minor though gives you so many different options now. It brings in all of those value bats on the Yankees. But talking about the Yankees, like we talked about the Red Sox yesterday when it was Steve Pearce having now to come back with Mitch Moreland in that platoon. Neil Walker goes out and hits 2 home runs yesterday. Doesn't get rewarded with a lineup spot, though, because now you can go righty-lefty, and you got Voit coming back in.
So what are we looking at here? And Gary, we'll start with you with this, with just one guy on either team that you need to play on the Showdown slate.
I think it's Aaron Hicks. I mean, Hicks, for the entirety of his professional baseball career, even back when he wasn't really hitting with the Twins and he was looked upon more as like a defense-first outfielder.
You mean when he was on my fantasy team?
Yeah, back then.
Yeah, and he was awful.
He was still someone who, as a switch hitter, was always in favorable spots when he was facing a left-handed pitcher, and that's really been the same story so far this season. His numbers across the board are better within that split, but the thing that I really like specific to Mike Minor is Minor's basically a 3-pitch mix guy. He's got a fastball, he's got a slider, and he's got a changeup. Understandably, when he's left on right, he doesn't use that slider nearly as much and becomes a 2-pitch pitcher, fastball, changeup. This season, against left-handed pitching, Aaron Hicks has a 500 isolated power against the 4-seam fastball and a 363 isolated power against the changeup. So I think he's in a pretty good spot tonight, and he's also kind of a variance play because everyone's going to want to have Stanton, so he's a little bit cheaper as well.
Steve, where are you going?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Didi Gregorius. I mean, when you look at the matchup offhand, it's a left-on-left. So obviously I think that's going to drive down some of the ownership because that's usually something you would stay away from. And Mike Minor's been pretty good against lefties, only a 277 WOBA against them. But I think the consensus here is that Minor's not going to be in this game long. He's going to get smashed.
Is there any validity to doing a Texas stack?
Oh, sure.
Of course.
It'd be a variation play. And look, he's Tanaka is one of the most GPP-dependent pitchers we have. Like, he is the face of GPP in DFS action. So, yeah, I mean, he's going to give him a couple home runs tonight.
Yeah, we saw it with Hap yesterday even as well. Those guys, they're going to get the strikeouts, but they're going to give up the home run as well, and especially now with Kaufman sweating to prove us that how hot it is out there, you know the ball will be flying. But a little bit more about Gregorius.
Yeah, I mean, and then once you get into that Rangers bullpen, I mean, boy, baby, everything's on the table at that point. The Rangers are not good against lefties. 324 WOBA against him, a 4.43 FIP. So, I mean, this is a spot I think that Gregorius could potentially come in at some lower ownership, but once you get a little bit later into that game, good matchups for him.
Hicks, Gregorius, all Yankees. Janko?
I got a Ranger. But I'm going to caveat that because you need Stanton tonight, and I nobody's going to bring him up, but we talked about the BVP.
What will his ownership be? 100%?
Not 100%,
98%.
I mean, if you want to play one or even both of the starters in this game, like, you can't afford.
Do you want to play any of the pitching in this game?
I don't think you want to play Minor. You could talk me into playing Tanaka.
Yeah, I think that would be the better GPP play.
Yeah.
Obviously, getting the lower ownership just because he's up at 15.7. You can't get Stanton if you are going with Tanaka. But if I want to pair someone with Stanton, who's 10,600, most expensive bat on the slate there, I'm going with Jurickson Profar, going back to the well. Brought him up last night, went out and hit his 13th home run of the year. He is the switch hitter that, you know, is always going to be in that good matchup from both sides of the plate. I like that he doesn't necessarily need to hit a home run either. He can spray a couple hits around the field as well. But what you see with the Yankees and teams that are in these wild card positions also is that they're not going to have a long leash on their pitchers either because their bullpen is so good. It scares you a little bit, but we know Profar will stay in there. He'll always be in a righty-lefty or a lefty-righty matchup. Yeah,
it seemed for a while there like CC Sabathia and Chad Green were essentially like married. You weren't going to see Sabathia unless you saw Chad Green throw 2 innings in that game. So that is one of the reasons to kind of back away from Texas a little bit, because as Steve brought up, when you look at these two bullpens side by side, there is
not even
screaming evidence that you want to be using Yankee bats and not Rangers bats necessarily.
All right, any final thoughts on the showdown slate? Maybe someone no one's going to play?
I mean, I'd love to know why Joey Gallo's not in the lineup. I mean, that's a total head scratcher there.
Well, it's okay. He's not. You don't have to use him.
But it makes me upset. I mean, Kaufman should be there.
This is what triggers you?
But because Adam Kaufman's there, he should be there asking the hard questions. Why is Gallo not in the lineup? That's what he's here for.
If there's one thing Kaufman's known for, it's asking the hard questions. Now, Tom Brady, your hair looks so pretty. Did I touch it? That is more of a Kaufman question, at least in my mind. All right, you guys want to finish up on this and move to the main slate?
Sure, let's do it.
All right, let's get to the main slate. Who am I taking a pitcher? Steve.
Yeah, I love Zach Wheeler on this spot. He's
only the real wheel?
Oh, yeah, the real deal, baby. 10,100 tonight against the Marlins. This is the third time that these have they face off against each other. 27.6 DK fantasy point average for Wheeler so far. And now the Marlins are without Justin Bour. Bour was traded to the Phillies today. I don't know if that's a good thing or not because he goes from a losing team, but at least he had some playing time on that losing team. He's going to be riding the pine now on the Phillies. Look, Wheeler has been the wheel deal. Thank you for that one, Mayo. 252 WOBA with a 2.74 FIP with a 9.1 K9 since the beginning of July. Wheeler is absolutely dealing right now. You got to go with him.
All right, so what is the look that we're using for our lineups? Are we going heavy at pitcher? Are we going one high, one low? Can you find some scrubs? What do you think?
I'm going more into the mid-tier. I think Wheeler maybe is the highest that I would look, right at 10, but I'm going John Gray maybe as my SP2 with Nathan Eovaldi, the Red Sox, who was pitching great with the Rays also, but they just don't believe in starting pitchers, so that's why they shipped him over to Boston. But talking more about John Gray, look, you can't deny that he made some serious changes after he got sent down to AAA and has looked really good since he's been coming back. Now he's at 77. Bit of a price depression because he is in Colorado at Coors Field. But what we saw already with the lineup coming out with the Dodgers, no Manny Machado, so obviously looks a little bit better for John Gray. And then, you know, I'm just big on Colorado again. I went with Tyler Anderson last night, worked out pretty well, and so I'm going back to John Gray. Like I did with Profar, I guess I have some recency bias, you could say.
Garion?
I mean, those two guys are both great, and I think we didn't even really talk about the matchups, and that's what truly makes them fantastic. With the Dodgers, it's weird because you look at this team, you look at some of the numbers, like their chase percentage this season has been exponentially lower than any other team in baseball, and generally speaking, that would tell you this is a team that does not strike out all that often. That's not the case. Over the last 2 weeks, 28.3% strikeout rate, and the reason for that is they have such a low zone contact rate, the third lowest in baseball over that same span. That's a like a big red flag when you can't hit pitches inside the strike zone. And for John Gray, I mean, he's not like Patrick Corbin, who's trying to get you to fish outside the zone. He's going to put his stuff in the strike zone and try to make you hit it. Like, his zone percentage is among the highest in all of baseball. So I really love that matchup tonight. Zach Wheeler's probably my favorite player on the slate because the Marlins have been, I mean, even before they lose Bauer, I think they have an ISO below 100 the last 2 weeks, which I didn't even know was statistically possible. So good for them for teaching me something, I guess. But aside from those guys, I'm going to attack the mid-tier like Alex was saying. Zach Eflin, I think, is in a really good spot tonight. He actually hasn't been pitching overly well recently. His last 5 starts, he's given up 8 home runs. Not great at all, but lefties are his big red flag. He's got a .630 slugging percentage to lefties in that span. And even though you would maybe fear that, San Diego, despite the fact they threw a whole lot of money at a left-handed batter this offseason, they don't have any lefties in their lineup. They have the lowest isolated power, their left-handed batters against right-handed pitching, of any team in baseball at 114. The only guy who's got an ISO above 150 is Franchi Cordero, who is hurt. So I feel like San Diego, as we always say, is just generally a slate with this much uncertainty, too, towards the lower end. If you want to pick out, like, even your Detroits of the world, I guess, with Evan Santana, but like more so just your really terrible teams like San Diego, where you pretty much know what you're getting, I think it's a pretty safe way to attack.
And it's interesting the way DraftKings has the price, and they're almost tempting you to go a little stars and scrubs at pitcher, with Garrett Cole only being $12,500. But just like you said, these mid-tier guys, it's not just how well they've been pitching, it is the matchups that make them also viable. And on a 14-game slate, you don't worry much about ownership at all with any of these guys, I don't think.
What do we, I mean, in terms of ownership, just in general, is there 1 or 2 pitchers on this slate that you think are going to garner much ownership, Steve?
I mean, Wheeler for sure. I mean, like we were saying, how bad the Marlins are, and now you take out the Justin Bour equation. I mean, this is just a putrid team. I mean, this is a AAA, maybe a AA team at best right now. I mean, they are just not getting it done. They're not going to be getting it done. They've had their moments. I mean, I'll give credit where credit is due. They've definitely had their moments so far this season.
That's the term we tend to use.
Perfect. They're annoying. They're that mosquito buzzing around your ear because they'll single you to death. And you're sitting there going, get these guys out, but they just can't get the runs across. They don't have that guy, that prolific hitter that can knock in all these runs. So they're annoying, but like I said, or mentioned earlier, Wheeler has gotten it done against this team before. You take out the Bour equation. He's going to carry a lot of ownership, but I feel like if you don't have that exposure, you might be having to play in a lot of catch-up tonight as well.
Isn't this what we said about Paxton and Verlander last night?
Well, Verlander was just angry. He was just an angry dude last night.
You got to factor in human emotions. He's not a robot.
That's why I like BVP.
Yeah, and well, the Marlins annoy you when you're paying $14.5 for Max Scherzer,
exactly.
right? And that's when it's the slam dunk spot, and you have to pay up for him. But at $10,000, I think you can take that a little bit more. You can take that 25 DK points and then find stuff elsewhere.
I am kind of intrigued by Garrett Cole tonight, though. I mean, we brought this up on the show yesterday, and it is a reason to kind of take a step back and say, do I really want to spend over $12,000 on this guy? Seattle doesn't strike out that much.
Not at all.
But it's funny. I was looking at his splits for his last 5 games, and this is a span of time where he's only actually gone over 25 DK points twice. Like, he's not bringing back the actual surface numbers you want to see, which is important because, you know, FIP doesn't win you bucks on DraftKings. But
FIP bucks.
His numbers over the last 5 games, they're like Chris Sale-esque. He's got a 37% strikeout rate, a 1.4 FIP. Seattle, aside from last night, I mean, maybe that was just some like new lineup mojo. They can't hit. So I feel like because no one's going to be on him and because we have a 14-game slate with so much value, even in the outfield, like at the middle infield positions, you can find guys who are under $4,000. Like, there are ways to make Garrett Cole work in your lineup. I don't think I'm going to have like mass exposure, but I'm definitely going to have a few Cole lineups.
And another thing with Cole, too, the way he's priced, he's $12,500. He's just expensive enough that I have to consider fading him, but also cheap enough that I'm like, I haven't gotten him at this low of a salary in so long. But the problem with him, too, is that this is a guy that is second in the league in K percentage, only behind Chris Sale. But then he's going against a team that he's faced twice already, and his K9 is below 8. Yeah. So it's a weird mix where I don't think he'll get 3 times value, but I don't see him having a bad start either because, like you were mentioning, the Mariners just aren't hitting at this point. This is a team that we were talking about yesterday, started the year off on fire, and they were the surprise team of the major leagues that maybe weren't going to make the playoffs, and they've kind of just completely fallen off now. Now they're kind of a team to target against with their pitching. But, yeah, it's a really weird spot for Cole, especially with his salary.
He's also not the most efficient. Like, he hasn't been working deep into games.
Right.
About about the last 2 months, and the fact that the Astros have kind of loaded up with their bullpen strength, sort of like we were talking about the Yankees, not that they have a lot to play for necessarily. They've pretty much, I mean, Oakland's charging, I guess, but they've pretty much got this division wrapped up, but they might be inclined to go, get us through 5 2/3, get us through 6, and you're good. We got this.
What about my main man, Blake Snell? He's on the slate. He's like carrying my fantasy.
Before
he got hurt, he was great.
Yeah, no, you just can't trust any sort of, pitching limit there with the Tampa Bay Rays, especially coming off the injury a little bit, still working his way back. And Toronto, we mentioned it before too. They're going to put up runs. They're going to make solid contact. So especially when he's sandwiched between Wheeler and Evaldi, like anyone, you can be a GPP. Make him a GPP pick, but he's definitely not somebody I would put in a cash game.
And if he wasn't coming off injury, we'd be talking about him so much more.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Than
he'd be over 10K.
Normally would. Oh, absolutely. But
so is this a value spot to get in on him then? If
he's 9.9, so
but he's under 10K.
Is it on the table?
You're just talking about Garrett Cole. He hasn't been this low. He's still $12,000.
Right.
Again, is it on the table that Blake Snell can come into this game and strike out 9 Blue Jays in 5 innings? Sure, that
what about
could
16?
happen. Well, that couldn't happen. It could happen in 6 innings. It could happen in 5 innings.
I mean,
unless there's a drop third strike.
Happen.
Well, unless there's because there's only 15 outs in 5 innings.
Yeah, but you can strike out 5 guys in 1 inning if you really want.
I mean, now we're really talking about percentage points here. But anyway.
Wilson Ramos gone. Who's their catcher now?
If you want to throw him out there in a GPP, I think it's fine. But I think the actual percentage chance that he returns investment, I mean, we were having this discussion on DFS Edge. How do you kind of have that decision in your mind where it's like, I know this guy's going to have low ownership. That's nice, but if you don't truly believe he's going to score 20 points, it doesn't matter.
All right, games to target for tonight. If you're going to be stacking either mini stacks or full game stacks or just one side of a team stack, Janko, where are you looking first?
I'm going a little off the board here. Cleveland at Chicago, talking about the White Sox. Now, Shane Bieber's in a really good spot. Certainly to get a win. Not Justin, as he is known on. Oh, I'm just going to get rid of that. Not Justin, obviously, is going to be his player weekend nickname or whatever, but struggles against lefties. Not the most daunting lefties, I grant you. Yohan Moncada all the way down at 8th. I know Steve is lamenting that.
Spoiler alert.
Still, can't trust second baseman, man.
But they're
learned anything this weekend.
Yeah, seriously.
They're going to sprinkle them throughout the order, so at least every inning there's going to be a chance a lefty can see Bieber. But then on the other side, Carlos Rodon, another one of those GPP pitchers, right? He's going to strike out 6 and give up 6 home runs, though, potentially as well. So I like maybe some of the value that you can find at the bottom of Cleveland as well. Looking at bullpens, also, Rodon doesn't usually go that deep into a game. Chicago does not have a bullpen that scares me whatsoever.
Brandon Guyer night. Everyone loves Brandon Guyer night.
McGuire?
Yeah, McGuire.
Steve?
I'm definitely going with the Diamondbacks against the Reds here. I mean, you definitely want to be stacking against Anthony DeSclafani, however you say his name. You got Peralta leading off.
Scalafini.
Was that good?
Is he Italian?
That was good. Okay. You got David Peralta leading off.
With your hands.
Eduardo Escobar. Come on, baby. Eduardo Escobar in the cleanup
I don't think
spot.
he's Italian.
And Marte batting in the 6th spot. I mean, he's been brutal against lefties. Somehow, he's managed to have a 4.10 WOBA against them on the road and at home. So that's an impressive feat for you, my sir. But, the projected run total for the Diamondbacks is over 5 runs tonight. So obviously this play is not going to be a sneaky one because obviously we're always looking at those Vegas run totals. But I think it's one that you definitely don't want to miss out on. I wouldn't do a full stack of the Diamondbacks. The lefties are definitely the one to stack. So I'd shy away from the righties if you can, but I think it's a great spot for them.
So we got some Cleveland. We got some lefties in Arizona. What do you got, Gary?
I like Oakland a lot tonight. And I will admit it serves a lot of my purposes if you follow my thinking on pitching, which is if you are going to go mid-tier, attack the high mid-tier with Zach Wheeler, or maybe even get some Garrett Cole in your life. So I've got to save somewhere, and I really like this stack. I mean, Felix Pena is not that great. I think that's pretty fair to say at this point, and he specifically struggles with left-handed bats. Now, Oakland doesn't necessarily have the greatest left-handed bats, especially Jed Lowry. He's been struggling immensely for about 2 months now. You'll remember, Lowry was like the top-priced second baseman at the start of the season.
He's hitting under the
under the Mendoza line the last 2 months, but Pena 371 WOBA to left-handed batters so far this season, and he's specifically awful at home against left-handed batters. And the reason for that, according to Baseball Prospectus, Angel Stadium is one of the best places to hit if you're left-handed. There was a reason Shohei Ohtani, it took him like 3.5 months before he hit a home run on the road. It's a paradise for left-handed hitters. So guys like Matt Olson, who's 4.2, I really like him at first base tonight as sort of a mid-tier play. Jed Lowry's 3.8. And then Nick Martini, 3.5 for a leadoff hitter. Like, probably leadoff hitter. We don't have that lineup yet, but the last couple times they faced a righty, he's been hitting leadoff. So I think it's an area that you maybe, like Steve said, don't go like, I need 4 A's in my lineup tonight, but if I need a first baseman and an outfielder and saving some money, I do like that A's mini stack.
What do you think is going to be the most popular stack of the night?
Yankees?
Yankees.
Yeah.
Before the Yankees, probably the Yankees.
Yankees probably followed by, just bats in Coors Field. I mean, it doesn't even matter half the time what the matchup is in Coors Field. You just throw Coors Field on there, and everyone's like, all right. They just go right for it.
How is that turning out this year with Coors? Is it still the same as it always was? It's going to work out as the stack of the night, like 60%.
Well, it fixed Paul Goldschmidt, so we can't understate that.
Well, and Brandon Nimmo, too, right? He was like a 6K player when the Mets went there. I think with Colorado specifically, it's become a lot more matchup-based for me. Like, if they're at home facing a lefty, Trevor Story's in pretty much every one of my lineups. But outside of that, like DJ LeMahieu's $4,100. Like, he's just not bringing the potential. He was always such a good cash game play last year. Charlie Blackmon, obviously, not the player that he was last year. And the pitchers on Colorado are doing a good job at least limiting some of those big blow-up games, and they're winning. They're playing well. So you're not seeing as many of those huge blowout games. I'm just kidding.
That's kind of the fun part, though. Like, I think the pitchers are what's been so interesting this season because they actually have a couple viable arms. Like, we talked about John Gray already, who I like tonight. Talked about Tyler Anderson last night, who's been perfectly fine at home. I mean,
even
it's working for Marquez in the sense that he is awful at Coors Field, but he's fantastic when he doesn't have to pitch there. So it's kind of fun not focusing on the offensive side of things when games are at Coors and maybe getting those lower ownerships on some pitchers because people just don't want to attack that Coors Field thing. Aside from that, it's like, is David Dahl up? Is he hitting leadoff? Sure. Is Parra in the lineup tonight? Like, it's some of those.
Does Iannetta have great BVP versus Kenta Maeda tonight? Steve, does he?
That's always something to consider.
Are there any games that are just complete stayaways?
I mean, I personally, to kind of bridge this topic completely and go a 180, I'm not really touching the offensive side of Coors tonight. Like, I don't think it's not a situation I want to attack. I mean, we've already basically ruled out the entire Dodgers side of things, and they're helping by not playing Manny Machado, but I would much rather have John Gray in a lineup than be attacking against John Gray tonight. And then, as bad as Maeda has been the last 3 starts, he's still someone who has dominated right-handed bats all season long, so that kind of says I'm not paying more than $5,000 for Nolan Arenado. I'm not playing Trevor Story because it's not a left-handed pitcher. Do I really want to start playing like is Cargo or is David Dahl or is Gerardo Parra going to be the lefty who actually gets a hit off him tonight? And then the bullpen has been pretty good over the last month or so as well. They're top 10 in ERA the last month. They're one of only 6 bullpens to have a K/9 above 10 in the last couple months. So if there's any way you want to attack hitters at Coors Field, it's strikeouts. Just negate contact completely. So I'm not. Maybe they score like 4 runs, but I don't think it's enough to actually like stack up.
I think adding on to that, another game that I'm going nowhere near. Like if we could just forget the Twins and the Tigers or
we don't need to talk
right
about
now.
So there we go. Yeah, just throw that game right out.
Irvin Santana will do that where he'll throw a complete game shutout. Maybe
Could be tonight. Yeah.
And then Jordan Zimmerman is, we used to love to get home runs off of him, but now he's actually looking kind of like a pitcher.
Games in Detroit too, which sucks. Like
here's the thing. Guess who's back? Who's back? Coffin's back.
Oh.
I'd say tell a friend, but don't do that with Coffin. But Coffin is at Yankee Stadium right now, and he has some final thoughts from the stadium about what's going on tonight. So what's going on, Coff? Let us know your final thoughts.
All right, Mayo, well, I told you last time around all about why it's a good reason to stack the Yankees against Mike Minor. It just makes sense. But in fairness to the fantasy players out there who may be thinking about other options, it's only fair to give you the other side of the ball. And, of course, that means Masahiro Tanaka starting for the Yankees, and then you got the Rangers lineup. Now, you already know Joey Gallo is out of the lineup, and that is, again, sort of a head-scratcher. It's a little curious, but you've got a couple of bats that are hot in Odor, in Profar, guys to consider. They won't be nearly as expensive as some of the Yankees bats, but there are some things to think about when it comes to Tanaka, okay? Now, his ERA is pushing 4. He has got 103 innings under his belt this year. He's given up 19 home runs. The ball flying out of Yankee Stadium here during batting practice. The weather is great. No reason to believe it won't be again during this game. It's really a matter of which Tanaka do you want to trust, because there's the one who over his last 3 starts has given up a total of 1 run. Just 1 over his last 3 starts, but it's also a guy who has a career ERA against the Rangers approaching 7 That is his second highest against any opponent in Major League Baseball. Worst only is the Astros. So this is a guy that, you don't know. It's feast or famine what you're going to get from him. I think, again, I stay with what I told you earlier. If you're looking for a lineup to stack, it is the Yankees against this Rangers team. You want to maybe sprinkle in a couple of Rangers, the bats that you really like against Tanaka. I get it, but I would not even consider a Rangers stack because Tanaka, he's too much of a wild card going into this game. Just something to consider on a very hot, humid night with very little wind here at Yankee Stadium.
All right, thanks a lot, Koff. You can follow Adam Kaufman on Twitter, or don't, because it's Adam Kaufman, and you'll just have to hear about Boston stuff all the time. How great Boston is. It's just like coming with you.
Yeah, no, that's
You have to deal with him every day. Oh, Boston's so great. Boston's so great.
He's got the inside scoop on all these things.
And he's not alone. That's the thing
I know.
about being in
I
Boston.
give Kaufman a hard time. I'm kidding. You should definitely follow Adam. I follow him, so everyone should follow him. Either way, though, I want to talk about contrarian picks for tonight's slate. We need to do something, at least, to make our teams a little bit different. Who is it that we can take, Steve, from the very bottom?
Well, this one pains me. I had down Moncada because I figured he'd be at the top of the lineup, and then they're like, you know what? We're going to ruin Steve's segment. Let's get him all the way down to 8th. So now it's, even more contrarian than it was before. I mean, I think Shane Bieber's actually going to carry some decent ownership, but he's so poor against lefties. 397 WOBA with 4 of his 6 home runs allowed. Look, Moncada is not hitting well right now. As I said, he's dropped all the way down to 8th. But you're going to get that ownership, and you're going to get the switch hitter in there. So when Bieber does get out, he won't have that bad matchup for him. So, yeah, the 8th spot is not ideal. I mean, I'm very upset about this. Gallo's not in the lineup. Moncada drops to 8th. I mean, this is just not my night. That's all it comes down to. But for the price you're going to pay for him, $3,800, I think he's worth a shot.
You got a better contrarian pick, Janko?
So Steve talked a lot about the Diamondbacks, and I agree they're in a
So
great
you're stealing
spot.
his picks?
But no, I'm going to the other side of that matchup because this will be the night that Clay Buchholz becomes the Clay Buchholz.
Oh boy, here we
We
go.
have
Here we
expected now for the entire season. His FIP is a full run higher than his ERA. Like, sometime there's regression coming. It's a great spot for it to be here. Great American Ballpark. The lefties, Joey Votto, back in the lineup, back in that 2 spot. Price down to $4,100. I know we're not getting the power from him that we've seen, but we know that it's there. And then Scooter Gennett down to $4,400. So I like the Reds, lefties in particular here, against Clay Buchholz. Probably the one mid-tier pitcher that I wouldn't touch tonight.
So stacking against Buchholz, Moncada. What do you got, Garrett?
Well, I already kind of gave away what my big contrarian thing is, which is I'm not touching the offensive bats at Coors Field tonight, which I think will differentiate you enough in certain lineups. I don't think this is the night where everyone's rushing to use bats
you're also playing a bunch of
at
Oakland
Coors
dudes.
necessarily. But yeah, I mean, I got a bunch of Oakland dudes in my lineup. There's a bunch of value plays towards the bottom. But it's interesting. The Bieber thing to me is very, very strange and unique because I think this is a night where I could see myself throwing Bieber into lineups. I could also see myself using a couple, maybe not more than one Chicago White Sox back. Like pick the one you want. Probably
One pair of
Delmonico.
socks.
Not Tim Endicott?
No, definitely not Tim Andercust.
You're not playing him?
No.
Why not?
Well,
He could be reverse cursed tonight. Who knows?
nah, probably not.
If he reversed his batting, or if he went to the left
Yeah.
side of the plate, then yeah, he's being played.
Yeah, that's
if
viable.
Bieber could somehow start throwing left-handed, I guess I would play Tim Anderson. But
He just walked then.
I mean, that's true.
It's hard to throw with your opposite hand. You lose your accuracy and speed. This is at least my thoughts on the matter.
Breaking it down.
I'm breaking it down with Pat Mayo. Sports science right here.
But I do think Bieber's going to have a
room
low
to
ownership tonight. I mean, Alex talked about it already. Like, there's 28 pitchers on the slate. Not any one guy, aside from maybe Zach Wheeler, is going to be above 15%. But I think with Bieber, because he's in that mid-tier that everyone's looking to attack, and there are better options, I think people would rather go to John Gray. I think people would rather go to Zach Eflin. Bieber then is the lowest owned of the highest used tier. And yes, he struggles immensely with left-handed bats, and everyone knows that.
bad.
Really bad left-handed bats. It has to be said. Like, even Moncada, who this is his much better split, strikes out in over 34% of his plate appearances against right-handed pitching. Daniel Palka, who people are starting to realize is a person who actually exists and has some pop, also strikes out more than 34% of his plate appearances against right-handed pitching. The White Sox actually have, their left-handed batters as a group, the lowest hard contact rate in baseball against right-handed pitching, under 30%. The only team in baseball to do that, and hard contact rate is on steroids this year. Everyone's
Really
setting
is.
career highs in hard contact rate, not the White Sox in favorable handedness matchups. So
Talk
I
about
like
contrarian.
Bieber.
Hey, maybe they're the only ones not on steroids.
Dare to be different.
Well, playing by the rules.
Moral victories.
Never gets you anywhere.
Never get you anywhere. So, okay, what about value? We're going to talk about contrarian. What about value? Who can we fill out? But it can even doesn't need to be like the highest price guy or the lowest price guy. There's just like Steve Pearce last night. He just fell into that range. He didn't turn out to be very good, I don't think. But he was a value when you looked at it. So who is your top value?
I'm staying at the exact same price point, $3,400. And Gary laid out Zach Eflin in a very good, but mentioned the home runs and
Yes.
the amount that he's given up. So I'm going Franmil Reyes, guy who
That's not
is
a real
basically a right-handed Joey Gallo.
Barrels
All he's
machine.
gonna do is hit a home run if he's making contact. He's moved now up to 4 in the order. Padres, kind of an okay offense now. I mean, they're putting the ball in play, hitting it hard at the very least. So 3,400 for me in that spot right there at number 4. I don't know how many people may be on base for him to knock in. He's just gonna have to hit himself in maybe once or twice.
That's okay.
Steve, who are you looking at for a good value?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Jacob Nix. Nix, 5,700 against the Phillies.
Is that like a Stevie
not-
Nicks thing?
it ends with-
Is this
Oh,
what
it's
he-
Nex. It's Nex.
Is he DMX?
Well, it's N-I-X is the spelling, I guess.
I got that part.
Do you though? Because it could be spelled like Hakeem Nicks. It's a
guess
complex thing, Pat.
You're just you're throwing a lot against the wall here, Steve.
You know what? Something's going to stick.
You're absolutely. I'm all for it.
You know?
It's just very confusing.
Got to do it. Look, I don't think he's going to carry a lot of ownership tonight. I mean, first off, there's just no info on this guy. He's making his first start here against the Phillies, and the Phillies are a struggling team. I mean, they went out and they got Asdrubal Cabrera. Really hasn't helped their offense as of late. They're still struggling there. They are going to be at Petco Park, which is good for lefties, but that's a minor detail. We don't need to get too much into that. But look, the Phillies are near the bottom of the league in offense, almost in every category over the past 2 weeks. This is a team that's struggling right now. And Nix, he just shot up the minor league ranks. He went through almost all the systems in a matter of 2 years. So they obviously see something in him that they like. So I think he's a good value play. Like I said, 5,700 against the Phillies, an offense that is struggling right now. You take a shot at him. I mean, we went with Ivan Nova last night. Why can't we go with this kid, Take some
Right.
chances.
He's almost $1,000 more. Has never pitched in the major leagues before.
use Clay Holmes. It's fine.
And the whole thing on last night's show, even on the smaller slate, was how stupid Garriott was for taking Nova.
Stupid like a fox.
Exactly.
I'm still not off that. I'm still upset that he had went that way.
Garriott, who is going to be your best value? When you say it, don't go like this at the camera because it's going to confuse people.
Gonna turn it off. I already mentioned Nick Martini, who I really like, batting leadoff. So let's transition.
Confirmed. Also, he is batting leadoff.
Fantastic.
Perfect.
And I mean, we brought up Elias Diaz last night. Gets another left-handed pitcher tonight, and is $200 less even after hitting a home run. Devin Travis is kind of interesting. Like, I didn't even really realize Travis until about an hour ago, but I do want to point out, like, he's $3,400, batting second for the Jays tonight. He kind of was underwhelming the last time he got a left-handed pitcher. He had Brian Johnson in what seemed like a plus matchup on Wednesday and didn't come through. But his numbers since coming back up from a AAA demotion, he's got a 200-plus WRC plus against left-handed pitching. He's been crushing lefties since he was probably a little embarrassed to be going to Buffalo. No one wants to live in Buffalo.
Ouch.
I heard Vlad is having an excellent time.
I hope he
enjoying himself.
stays. I hope he stays.
Well, we know he's not going
not
to
coming
Toronto
out.
this year, so definitely not going down to New Hampshire as well. Yeah, I mean, it's just the matchup with Blake Snell that makes you think. But obviously, if you're going Devin Travis, you're convinced you're going Devin Travis,
Yeah.
and then you take what you get.
It's really like it's a bargain basement price point.
I thought you were going to say he's bottom of the barrel.
Close to it.
Close to it?
Yeah.
Have any new lineups come up since we've gotten on to the set? Because you're monitoring that right now?
Yeah, we got the confirmation there on the A's. Both the A's and the Angels now both are in, so we got both
Anything
of the 10
interesting
o'clock games.
pop up from there, like order-wise?
No, not really. I think Trout had went finally to the disabled list. We'd been waiting for it for about a week now. That finally happened earlier today, so we weren't really having to wait on that. And then, the Padres are out now and look more or less the same in what we'd expect.
All right, let's get to some home run watch. And almost like on yesterday's show where I said if your contrarian pick or your value lock pick didn't come through, you're fired. Same thing tonight. You're fired if this guy doesn't hit a home run.
Nice.
Garriott, who's
I'm really liking my pick now because I took the major league leader in home runs, JD Martinez. It's hard to not find a night where you don't like JD Martinez.
You always
to hit a
just
home
pick
run.
the guy with the most home runs on the year? Was that like your gimmick?
Yeah. I'm like the guy
That
who
would
guesses,
seem to work.
I guess your age at the carny, but only when I get to see your ID first.
See, that's a smart way to go.
Dylan Bundy's just bled home runs this season to really both sides of the plate. Like the old book on Bundy was you don't want to play right-handed bats against Bundy because he has this amazing power slider. Doesn't seem to matter in 2018. He's been very, very generous to both sides of the plate. Lefties have the better WOBA, but righties have had an easier time hitting home runs. Game's not in Boston where JD's had some of his best splits this season, but Camden's a pretty good hitter's park.
Might as well be Boston.
Yeah, I think I'll take JD Martinez tonight.
Janko.
I can't believe we haven't mentioned yet the great pitching duel between Austin Gomber, and Birch Smith.
I like to pretend
Oh.
Missouri doesn't exist.
Not
Sorry, Missouri.
Missouri. Say it right.
You should see it
Mizzou.
too. He looks pretty rad.
Yeah, no,
he?
he's got,
Yeah, he
got
does.
the long flowing locks. Well, unfortunately for him, Matt Carpenter is going to hit him pretty hard tonight, I would have to say. And luckily, budget doesn't come into these home run watches. So we got JD, we got Matt Carpenter at 5,800. I like both leadoff hitters in this game, both Carpenter and Whit Merrifield. The only guy who does anything for the Royals anymore, and the only guy you would have to think about. But going back to Carpenter, I mean, just a smash spot for a guy who, if you're looking overall since the All-Star break, probably the hottest hitter in baseball.
Steve, I need a lock to hit a home run tonight. I wouldn't say your life depends on it, but your job does. So who is it?
Well, first I have to thank Alex for reading the MLB cheat sheet, which is written by yours truly, on the DK playbook, because Matt Carpenter was my hitter to pay up for, so I know.
You stealing his picks?
I'm the
stealing-
editor.
you stealing the picks?
So
Here's
here's
the stealing the picks.
You know what
here's
it
the
is?
role of an editor, and now I read
This
both
is not
both
important.
Garion and Steve's work.
This
I
is not
read
important.
Tim Finnegan's on the DK
I say when you
Live.
read mine, you just cut out half the article. Pat, you can't say that. And listen,
are we gonna? We might as well bring. No, we're not going.
we'll hash
to.
it out right now.
No, there's just excellent content on DK Live, and it's great to discern all of that. And I'm surprised Gary didn't bring up, I mean, he had a great lead given those two names in the matchup in the Wu-Tang name generator.
I did, yeah. Yeah.
Anyway,
There's been
Steve,
some
who's
weird
in-
pitcher names this week. That's all I want to say. I'm tired of looking at a slate and going, I know who this is, but like I don't really know who this is.
Wait till you get to NFL preseason. Then that's
We're there.
that's
We're there.
Well,
I got some hot tips in the green room about who to play in NFL preseason.
Yeah, Levitan's still back there pumping in
making the calls,
lineups.
man. No, this is like 1980s stock exchange stuff. He's on the phone.
He's on the phone.
Oh, yeah.
He has like a receipt page that he's jotting down with a pencil. That's how it's going to work. back
Buying
there?
peach.
His mother's a mudder, and yeah.
It's funny because he's on the phone, but you see everybody's eyes keep going up to him as he's talking, and then they'll just go start to do something. So that's the guy right
You
there. though.
awkwardly lean in. a little bit.
So who is the guy tonight that's going to hit the home run?
Yeah, I really like Eddie Rosario. You know, we haven't really talked about the Twins and the Tigers tonight, but he faces Jordan Zimmerman, and you know, you mentioned that Zimmerman has been more of a pitcher. Not so much lately, though. He's really kind of fallen off since the month of July.
More belly itcher these days?
This is the best compliment I could give. He's kind of a pitcher.
Yeah, you know, we're a family-friendly show here. You know, 9 of his 14 home runs have been allowed since the beginning of July. Rosario has a 230 ISO against righties with 17 of his 20 home runs. Look, this is not a game I'm targeting mostly at all, but I think Rosario on an island is definitely somebody that I would consider against Zimmerman. As I mentioned, he's just completely fallen off. I think what we saw from him when he came back from injury was it's not a reflection of the pitcher that he is now. Maybe from before, but definitely not now. So I definitely like Rosario tonight.
If you were in the live finals, which is tomorrow night, and on the Saturday slate, it's a smaller slate than this one, but these same teams are going to be playing each other. How much stock would you put into what happens tonight if you were filling out a lineup for the DraftKings Fantasy Baseball World Championship?
I think in baseball, especially, you can't put any stock whatsoever.
You don't want to ride a hot hand?
No,
Not my favorite thing to do.
I think the
Maybe
one.
that's why you're not in the Fantasy Baseball World Championship.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Brutal.
The one,
that's
the
like
one
a-
edge you get though is the salaries, right? You're not
Yeah.
if it's as hot of a hand as just this one game. Unfortunately, you know, you mentioned Elias Diaz's price actually going down, but unfortunately confirmed not in the lineup tonight.
Here we go again.
Going back to
But do we know
Francisco.
that for sure this time?
I am saying it right here. He is not in the
calling
lineup.
it?
What is it
Francisco
with
Frivelli.
players
Timestamp
hitting home
that.
runs and their managers going, you know what, you gave it your all, but not quite good enough
Neil
to get
is
back in the
hitting up
lineup tonight.
Elias, you know, back from their Pittsburgh days.
You don't want to show people up in baseball. You hit too many home runs, and it'll make
one of those unwritten
it'll
rules.
make your teammates feel
That's a good
bad
point.
when they're not hitting home runs.
He is also a catcher. He has to be the team's arbiter of the unwritten rules, as you know.
That is the role of the catcher.
Well, AJ Przinsky took it to heart, but I feel like he kind of revolutionized the position for all
Unwritten
catchers.
rules.
Yeah, but talking about strategy in those finals, and when we had Awesomo on earlier, and he was talking about, like, how many levels are you willing to go in trying to outthink the people who are also trying to outthink you? And sometimes
it's
maybe
an
it is that
type
simple.
problem.
Maybe it is that simple in that, okay, if I have 2 lineups, then I will go with the Reds banking on Buchholz regressing. But if I only have 1 lineup, you need the points, and the Yankees are in just the spot where you just can't fade them.
And you also have to be realistic about what happened the night before. So a great example, I think, is with Steve Pearce when he hit the 3 home runs against the Yankees. That's not normal. That's not going to happen on a normal
every night.
basis.
He was going to break Bonds' record.
But that's what happens with a lot of players is they'll see 3 home runs and they'll go, oh, I got to get him in the lineup tonight. Doesn't necessarily mean that what he did last night is what he's going to do again tonight. He could be in a terrible matchup the next night, and people just don't go the extra mile to research, is this a good matchup tonight? Is there a chance that he can do something tonight? So I think like a lot of that recency bias, what have you done for me lately, goes into play when people make these lineups, and I think it doesn't really matter. Sure, the hot hand is hitting well, seeing the ball well. That definitely takes into effect, but it's the matchups that are most important for that particular day, and I think that's what people need to really watch for.
And so we got we had a deal, at least, in baseball today.
Yeah.
Is it actually significant, and do the Phillies just have every, like, infielder in baseball now?
They have the largest team, I think.
Yeah.
If you were to put them all on a
physically
scale.
going to bully people on the field?
Once Wilson Ramos comes back from the disabled list as well. But I wanted to shout out whoever tweeted out, but I can't remember the name. But Justin Bour has the highest OPS as a pinch hitter for those who have had at least 40 plate appearances as a pinch hitter. His OPS is like 1,400. So if they really like that
He's the
sample
new Matt
size,
Stairs, basically.
Oh, that's a good one.
but no, it's another lefty power bet, situational. As Buke said, he's not going to get regular playing time. But when you're talking about a 1-game playoff where you have Aaron Nola and maybe you're only down 1-0, or it's a 1-1 game and you just need this 1 home run, that is exactly why you make that move. You gave up practically nothing for.
We were kind of playing like armchair manager when this trade went down, and there is now a way, like, if the Phillies do face even, let's say hypothetically, like Max Scherzer, let's say they get to the 2nd round and the Nationals somehow make the playoffs, which might not actually happen. But, you know, Scherzer's someone who, if there is any way to attack him, it's just lefty after lefty after lefty and hope it erodes him at a certain point. They can put a lineup together with like 6 lefties off the top, and maybe none of them is the best left-handed hitter in baseball, and you probably want Rhys Hoskins in like side the top 3 too, but they can really just throw combinations of hitters at you now, which lineup flexibility, especially in the National League, is such a vital part.
If somehow the World Series ends up being the Phillies and the Indians, Shane Bieber is screwed. Like, that's not something he'll be
Well,
off
the
the
Indians
roster.
are screwed if they're relying on Shane Bieber as much too, as well as like a 5th starter. But
But I
Bring it as like a long man.
Really, though, the biggest, like, if I were to have written the blurb on DK Live today about this trade going down, the exact quote would have been, none of this matters except that it makes Zach Wheeler even better tonight.
I will say, though, I think it's
so
definitely,
shame on Julian Edlow for who was on it and not include that as his DK Live.
it's definitely a playoff move, though, because come the offseason, there is no way that Bour stays with the Phillies. They'll definitely flip him for someone else because he's under contract for another 3 years. But Santana's the logjam there at first base. Obviously, there's no DH in the National League, so Bour is there for the playoffs. Once that season's over, he's out.
Maybe that's the thing, though. Maybe this is what they're testing the winds of the future. They'll be like, next year, the NL will have a DH, and boom.
Ooh, and see, that's where it gets crazy. You're going a little too crazy now here.
Yeah, get another Daniel Murphy playoff run, and then now you have him under control. You know, those happen all the
It's
time.
all good.
All right, so on this slate tonight, were there any other actually showdown contests that you looked at, or would you just focus mainly on the Yankees game? Because there are probably some other fun ones out there too, right?
I think there might be one more. I might be mistaken.
Yeah, what's the other showdown slate? Those are always fun to look at. And
Usually we get a night one. Oh, here we go. Milwaukee, Atlanta.
Okay, that doesn't sound like
Dodgers, Colorado. You
Colorado's
could
a fun
not
one.
fade the Coors bats in that one.
I could try.
That's what you at 13-1. I might consider Peralta a little bit more than I would have Tanaka or Minor for sure.
Well, I think that's a really good spot for the Brewers bats because Peralta is
on steroids?
Sometimes. Seems like it.
Korean.
If I'm going to play this
When
slate.
games are in Milwaukee, he might be.
Yeah, the nights I need to know this so I can play him.
And game in SunTrust, which isn't playing as the lefties' paradise that we kind of saw in its first year in existence last year. So
It's
definitely
it's the worst left-handed hitters park in baseball, according to Baseball Prospectus. It's
so
dropped
Peralta's
way
right
off the
back
map.
in. If it's so funny how it just switched if it was in Milwaukee versus now it's in Atlanta.
All right, so let's recap here. Who was the home run pick again, Garion?
JD Martinez.
Steve?
Martinez. Rosario.
What would be like the odds on that? You're giving him the head shake on JD Martinez.
I mean, because JD Martinez.
Too easy is what you're saying?
Yeah,
I was not given any instructions other than who will hit a home run tonight. So I gave you who will hit a home run
Nobody said
tonight.
Giancarlo Matt Carpenter for me.
Contrarian play?
I mean, when you're 5,800, you're not exactly contrarian.
No, who is your contrarian play?
Oh, my contrarian. Reds left-handed hitters tonight.
Steve?
Can I do Nick?
Well, it makes it look like you're saying don't play the person. I'm just trying to give you some on-air advice here.
in your life.
I love this guy. Here's what you got to do. Like, really furrow your brow and give the angry eyebrows. Yeah, pick this guy. That's what you got to do.
I think that's going to stick. I like that one.
Garion?
My contrarian play would be not attacking the offensive bats at Coors Field tonight.
And who was the value play of the night?
I'm going to say Nick Martini. 3,500.
Shaking it up.
Steve?
Moncada, batting eighth, whatever.
All right. Alex.
Franmil Reyes.
And the thing is, I'm actually going to extend the competition here that if you don't get all of your picks right, you're all fired.
Who's going to be
It's
the
going to be a
analyst
long
at
show
tomorrow's
for you tomorrow.
I'm just going to put my feet up and just hang. I'll like watch TV and people can watch me watching TV. People go on YouTube and watch people open GIFs.
That's true.
They wouldn't watch me watching TV.
How about surprise eggs?
Would people watch you or now if I'm fired, so you editing all the playbook articles? 'Cause that would be. I would watch that.
You know what would happen? Poor grammar.
Yeah.
And a lot of spelling
A
mistakes.
lot less stringent about
And a
wordplay.
lot of, I mean, we'd be shut down very quickly based on like inappropriate content. And there'd be a lot of the word TEH spelled. Because I do that
TEH.
all the
How
time.
the
I'm big on TEH. If I'm doing it in Word, it, auto, but yeah isn't really a word. Anyway,
I've
Gary
seen you write articles on your cell phone at restaurants before, so now
that
it
is
doesn't
true.
surprise me
And
whatsoever.
at bars and at other bars.
Gary and Thorne, follow him on Twitter where?
At Gary and Thorne.
Steve Buchanan, follow you on Twitter where?
S. Buchanan 24.
Alex Jankowski, where at?
At DK Live.
And that's not your Twitter
Keeps
handle.
lying.
At by Alex Jankowski.
And you can find all of their work on DK Live. Just tying it together. Good God. I'm Pat Mayo. You follow me at the PMEV. You probably do if you're still watching this at this point. But the Showdown slate is on right now and tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. DraftKings Fantasy Baseball World Championships live from New York City. I'll be on air 5 to 7, and we'll be doing updates all throughout the night. And if you're in the city, come down, buy a ticket, and come hang out, all right? I'm Pat Mayo. Thank you for watching. Good luck tonight. I'll see you next time.
Mayo experience.
Pat Mayo experience. Pat Mayo experience. Pat Mayo experience. Experience.